Hey, Chaim. We're going to start with the Siyumim. The minhag is to make a Siyum Masechta, to use as Kislev, and to have the community Chalukas Hashas. If you didn't yet take a Masechta, please, there's a list on the table right at the entrance. It's going to be available online as well. Take as many as you can. And ask. We're going to ask Rabbi Charitana to make a seal on the Tanya as we completed today, the Shir Yoimi of Tanya. Maybe the beginning, first few lines of the beginning.
First of all, the Yantiv, Shanateva, the Limodach Sitters, the Dakach Sitters, the Kasevu, the Secha Seimu. Alter Rebbe finishes the Tanya the following: that we have the Pnimius of Shabbos, and this is the Kavanah, the Tfilas HaShabbos, the Talmud Torah, learning Torah, the Daf Kaveh, to connect to Hashem. One second. Wait for it. Okay. To Dafka Bavaya Achad, to connect to the one Hashem, as it says, Meshakosov, Shabbos Lashem Elokecha. And this is the Bechina of Zacher. And what is Shamer? That's the Pnimius of the Shvisa from Midiburim Gashmi, from speech that is connected to Inyanim of Gashmi. Kamesha Shabbos Havayim, Yud Ma'amadish Nivra B'Hem Shamayim V'Aretz. Just like Hashem rested from the Asarim Amaris, from the speech that he created the Shamayim and Aretz, with Shamayim V'Aretz Gashmiyim, and if a person speaks Dvarim Gashmiyim, Inyanim Gashmiyim, then it's Zelo Umazeh, it's contradicting what Hashem wants from Shabbos. And now, the beginning of Tanya, 1 second. Sefer Shobeinanim, Kutei Amanim, Chelek Rishon. Kutei Amanim, the first Chelek, Hamikra B'Shem Sefer Shobeinanim. It's called Sefer Shobeinanim. Melukim Misfarim and Pisefrim. Now, the Rebbe, from his Hanover, writes that this is a collection from Svarim and Seifrim. Svarim, Hasidim explain, it's referring to the Shalah and the Maral. Pisefrim is a Hasidim explained that it's referring to the Baal Shem Tov and the Magid. Kadesh Elyu Nishmaseh. The Yusuf al Pasuk, it's found on the Pasuk, Yikari V'lecha Dovra Ma'ed B'ficha Uvuvavcha La'asese. It is near you, the Torah mitzvahs in your speech, in your heart, to do it. In your heart, simple means machshava, but your heart also means ava v'yira, to love and to fear Hashem. The Vayr Hativ, to explain it well, Eichu Karav Miyait, how this cost us, the Derech Harucha, in a long way, meaning through one working very hard on getting Avos Hashem through meditation, or b'derech tzara, in a short way to awaken the Avos Hashem that we all have within us. Be'ezras Hashem is Baruch, with the help of Hashem. Just want to conclude with a short story that it was told by Rabbi Yudo Krinsky that happened with him. His parents that lived in Boston, his father was a sheikhet, and one of his fellow shachtim wasn't well. This was after the istalkus of the Frierdiker Rebbe, but before the Rebbe officially took the Nesias. So it was either at the end of Tafshin Yud or the beginning of Tafshin Yud Aleph. So his father asked him, he was in New York in 770, he was a young boy, and his father asked him to ask the Rebbe for a bracha for that sheikh that wasn't well. So he wrote a note, and he sent it to the Rebbe. Rabbi Chadukov came out and said to him that the Rebbe wants to see him. And the Rebbe said to him, one of the things the Rebbe said to him was that there are some things that they're looking into, maybe they can find by different doctors, some new developments that are coming out in this field. Then the Rebbe said that his father should, that being that you need a keva in derech hateva, something in derech hateva, so his father should make a kvius with the sheikh to learn chassidus. And of course he did it, and the sheikh became well. So the bottom line, what we see from this story, that learning chassidus is not only a medicine, the ruchnius, it's a medicine in derech hateva that Rebbe says begashmius. Hashem should help that we should all increase our learning in chassidus, and immediately we should hear new maimarim and sichos from the Rebbe. Jump.
We would like to now make a seal on a Masechta, Rabbi Greenberg. Seal Shas.
It's the very end of Masechta Nida, and it's also said every day. Importance of learning halachas. You learn halachas every day. You're assured to be a ben elam haba. Good yantiv, good yantiv.
Shtoya, thank you, Rabbi Greenberg. For the siyum of the Hayoim Yoim, we're going to wait for Rabbi Yunitz. Meanwhile, we're going to watch a short video of the Rebbe at Bar Malchus. We're going to sing the Pada V'Shalom together with the okay. And this is from a youth. Before I introduce our special guest, regarding the story that the Rabbi mentioned with Gil Karichev, The hemshech to that story, I just heard this last night, was that later, after the Chernobylite passed away and his son took over, Reb Hillel, whose father was a Chernobyl Chassid, continued growing in that way. But then, when he was about 15 or 16 years old, he came across Tanya. And he saw Tanya, and he was very excited, and he wanted to go to Lubavitch, Chabad. So he went to his Rebbe. He said, I would like to go to Chabad. At that time, it was already the Mittler Rebbe, as we heard from the Rebbe saying. He never saw the Alter Rebbe, he only heard his voice. And his Rebbe told him, no. And even more, he threatened him, and he said that if you would go, then you'll end up with your belly up. Basically means not to be Ben Achayim. But he decided that he's going anyway. And on the way, when he was traveling to the Mittler Rebbe, like we heard from the Rebbe, they were in different parts of Russia. It was a long journey. And on the way, there was a turn, and there was a hill, and there was a this, something. And there was a big bump, and he flew out of the wagon, out onto the ground, belly up. There was a big nest that not a single bone in his body was broken, no scratch. It's a clear miracle, a nest gadol. Came to the Mittler Rebbe. First thing he said, Rabbi, I want you to know that for me it was a big serious nefesh coming here because my Rebbe didn't allow it. And on the way, so the Mittler Rebbe told him a similar expression to what his Rebbe said in different words, but the meaning of it was that I knew about it, and that's how do you think you fell without any damage happening to you? In other words, he protected him. Kind of makoy. Last night I was in New Jersey for a simcha, and in the middle of the night, I was driving back, and so I for the Farbrengen and a Tanya printer. That, as we said at the previous Farbrengen, there's going to be a Tanya printing till you to Kislev. So, B'ez Hashem, we're going to have a printing in Oakfield, New York, one of the sources of Chalav Yisrael for many Yidden in the whole America. But the roads were very slippery, and as I was driving, not fast, but it was fast enough that the car lost control, and it was a big nes gully that nothing happened to me, but the car completely went wreck. So I wanted to say thank you to the Eibishter for saving me, and it was clear because it was a shlichus mitzvah. This was part of the Tanya doing. Farbrengen, and has the protection. So thank you to Hashem. Same time. We should also see miracle of the Golui. We want to see Mashiach the Golui. Chaim Chaim. At some point, we're going to take a small break. After Rabbi Avtzon starts speaking, and we're going to introduce an idea that the Rebbe spoke about. Maybe Rabbi Avtzon is going to speak about it as well, about Kartisei Hakel cards, what it means, and how we do it. And the B'ez Hashem, part of the Haflatas tonight are going to be connected to Hakel. Right now, I'd like to ask Rabbi Avtzon, Gershon Avtzon, Rosh Hashiva, of a very chashuv yeshiva in Cincinnati, Ohio, that came all the way, no direct flight, with a lot of a long journey, but he made it here finally, Baruch Hashem. And hopefully it's going to be an inspiring Farbrengen that we can keep on going from Yutas Kislev all the way till the next Farbrengen, and from that all the way till Beis HaMikdash. These galus of the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach, take it from Yad Mamash.
Chaim, the Shona Treva, believe in Achsidis, Bedaki Achsidis, Tikosem, Sichosem, Tikosegu, Sechosemu, Chaim. I think we should start with the Chassidish Nigin.
For us, it's going to be mamish speeches. Start with the Chassidish Nigin, especially we have over here Mishpachas Charatonov, Chasonim with the Nigunim. So we start with the Nigin, so unvarming the Neshama. Yirina, you didn't come here to hear me sing.
Noch einmal mit Yomtiv, Lashon Teva, believe the Chassidus, B'darkei Chassidus, B'seivu, B'seichaseimu. I'd like to thank Rabbi Lorber for inviting me, pushing me, harassing me, really doing whatever it takes, at least for my sake. It's a schus to be here by this wonderful Hakel, Sa'am, and Noshim Notim B'Hach, with this Kislev, Chagachagi, V'Seshona L'Chassidus, and I hope, I really daven, that by the end of the night, you should also say that it was your schus as well, that it was a Farbrengen that actually had a positive effect on each and every one of us. So the schus should not just be mine for being here, it should be all of us together as a kehila, gathering together and strengthening ourselves, the limud chassidus, b'darkei chassidus. So l'chaim. The word Yurtes Kislev to Lubavitcher Chosid is very difficult to describe. It's an excitement. It's a hazazah. It makes you move. A Lubavitcher Chosid hears the word Yurtes Kislev. Anything and everything inside of him comes out. Even somebody that was never really involved, the Zayda Chosid. Anyone that had any connection to Chassidus Chabad knows Yurtes Kislev is Menin Lubavitch. There's a famous story that in Dor HaShvi, in our generation, the Rebbe has many Chassidim and many types of Chassidim. And like the Rebbe once told somebody, he also has Chassidim in camouflage. They don't necessarily dress with a hat, kapata, beard. The Rebbe has all types of Chassidim. One of the most unique Chassidim in our generation was the Chassid named Shneir Zalman Rubashov, otherwise known by his acronym Shazar, who also happened to be the president of the modern state of Israel. His name was Shneir Zalman. He obviously came from Lubavitch roots. He came from a Lubavitcher mishpacha, and then he got caught up in the Zionist ideology. And before he left to join the movement, he met his Zayda, who was an old Yid, and he told his Zayda, how do I know when I went too far? He wasn't so much Shemer Torah mitzvahs at that point. He said, how do I know when I went too far? Like, at what point do I know that I have to really get back to my roots? So the Zayda was quiet, he closed his eyes, he looked at him and he said, Shneir Zalman, if it ever reaches a point in your life when you're really stuck and you close your eyes and the Alter Rebbe's niggin doesn't come to your mind, that means you've gone too far. If the Alter Rebbe's niggin is not in your neshama, then you've gone too far. So he says the story, he went to Eretz Yisrael, got caught up completely in the Zionist ideology, and he completely forgot about his Chabad heritage, his Chabad roots. One night, they had an official gathering of the leaders of the Zionist movement. They were in Tel Aviv. They were all sitting together. Now, I don't know how official the meetings are here. You have meetings in the school or meetings of the Anash. I'm not here for the meetings. But when you have official meetings, you have to read the protocol and you have to have the minutes of the meeting. And they outline the agenda of the meeting. Before the meeting starts, the president or whatever it is that's in charge of the meeting outlines the agenda of the meeting. Now, the way the meetings, official meetings start is that you say today, December this and this, we're gathered together to discuss A, B, and C, whatever is on the list, the agenda for the night. In Eretz Yisrael, they went by the Hebrew dates. So he describes that he was sitting in the Tel Aviv Zionist meeting, and the person in charge of the meeting got up and he said, Halayla Yutes Kislev. Tonight, Yutes Kislev, and he was about to continue the meeting. His neshama heard the words Yutes Kislev. He ran out of the shul. He had to find Hasidim. It's Yutes Kislev tonight. How could he be so far away that it's Yutes Kislev and he didn't know? So he was running around Tel Aviv like a Meshuggah, he writes. He was looking, where are the Hasidim? There must be Hasidim gathering tonight. It's Yutes Kislev. Asked this one, he asked that one, like Para in Mitzrayim in the middle of the night. Where's Moshe? Where are the Hasidim? And they finally said the Hasidim, I forgot the name of the street in Tel Aviv, where the Hasidim would gather. Zek was there, and they would gather there in Tel Aviv. He walked in, and all the Hasidim are in bed. They're speaking in Yiddish, they're Farbrengen, and he stuck it like a sore thumb. He parked himself at the bench, and he said, I have to be here. It's Yutes Kislev. But he didn't feel part of it. Until one chassid asked him, what's your name? He said, Shnir Zalman Rubashel. And he said, like Rabbi Chalatonov asked me when I came, Wemens bist du? Not who you are. Who's your father? Wer dein Zayda? Wemens bist du? You're this one. I remember your Zayda. I remember your Elta Zayda. Mitamol, the Chassidim started bringing back memories of his Zayda and his Elta Zayda. And that restarted his fire and his connection to the Rebbe. And he became one of the biggest forces in Eretz Yisrael for Chassidim, for Chabad, for funding. He brought back tens and tens of Kislev from the Israeli library to the Rebbe, Ksavim of Chassidim, Ksavim of the Rabbeim, that only he had access to because he was the president of the state of Israel. And because of him, he had a lot of pressure. We know that he got a lot of slack or flack for when he came to America, that he would go to the Rebbe and not the Rebbe should go to him. And people said, you're the president of Israel, the rabbi should come to you. And he would tell them, I go to my Rebbe as a chassid. And there was a lot of pressure he stood up to. Where did it all start from? From hearing tonight, Yutes Kislev, and his neshama just burst out. Every Lubavitcher chassid, you don't have to be a great chassid she'im. You have any shaykhs, you say that a shaykhs to Lubavitch, you know that Yutes Kislev, you have to be by Farbrengen. There's no shayla. Could be, who knows what you're doing in your private life, who knows what you're doing, where you're holding your avodas Hashem. Yutes Kislev, the Rebbe said that in this day is Nisoider, Rivgois, Va'alfei, Lavavis Yisrael. Tonight, today, Yutes Kislev, thousands and thousands of Yidden are going to be Nisoider to Tshuva. Where else can you be but by a Chassidish Farbrengen? Anyone that has any connection, anytime, anywhere. I have friends that were thrown out of yeshiva and they come to Yutes Kislev Farbrengen. What do you mean? We were in Yutes Kislev, we come to Farbrengen. They come and you wouldn't recognize them. Some with yarmulkes, mit beard, mit hazen, I don't know what they're coming. But they come, Yutes Kislev, midei shana, b'shana, because where else will you be if not in Farbrengen, Yutes Kislev? So, l'chaim, that it should be a real Farbrengen. First of all, what is a Farbrengen? What is a Farbrengen? I was once speaking to a secular group, and I don't want Chas v'Shalom to compare, but sometimes the best way to explain something is how would you explain it to someone that doesn't know anything? Sometimes the best way to explain something to people that do know things would be to tell them things as if they didn't know anything. How would you explain to someone what is a Farbrengen to somebody who never was by a Farbrengen? Rabbi, what is a Farbrengen? Like, come to a Farbrengen. What is a Farbrengen? So he asked this question, and there were a few rabbis, rabbanim there, and this one was trying to explain, and that one was trying to explain. So when he asked me, I said, listen, They're translating for you Yiddish words, Farbrengen. You have to hear 3 English words. Far, bring in. He said, what does that mean? There's a lot of parts of Yiddishkeit which are very distant. We know them to be true, but they're in our head. They're far. They're not in our heart. They're far. The Farbrengen, you're not going to hear anything new. I promise you. Sitting in this room are Rabbanim that know more now. They've forgotten more Torah than I'll ever know in my life. And then no one needs Gershon Avtzon to come to Buffalo to tell you new things. You have a treasure trove of Rabbanim here that can teach you things from today and just not stop. There was one time a Badchin by, I think it was the Rebbe Rashab's Chasana that turned one of the Chasans of the Rabbi. By the middle of Rebbe's Chasana, the Badchin got up and the Badchin said, Rebbe, turning to the Alter Rebbe, he took a lot of l'chaim, and his job was to be the Badchin. Even though by our Rebbe's Chasana, it was printed in the Polish, the Rebbe got married in Warsaw, in Varsha, which is the headquarters of all the Polish. By the Polish Rebbes, they all had Badchanim by the Chasana. The Friedrich Rebbe canceled it. He didn't allow a Badchin. And it was written about in the newspapers that it was such a beautiful wedding, but it was missing the Badchin. They didn't understand. By the Friedrich Rebbe, the Rebbe's Chasana is no joke. But by the Mittler Rebbe, there was a Badchin. And the Badchin got up, a Chassidish Yid, I think it was a Shmuel Munkis actually. And he said, Rebbe, I don't understand. Everyone gives you covenant, and nobody gives me. We're very much the same. Everyone's looking at him. What? He says, whatever I know, you know. Whatever you don't know, I don't know. The only difference is what you know and I don't. So because of that, you get all the covenant and not me. We're 2/3 the same. We're sitting here by Farbrengen and Rabbanim that are brilliant. They know more, they've forgotten more than I'll ever know. You didn't come to Farbrengen to hear new things. We came to Farbrengen to take what we know and make it real. To take things that we already know, which are far, we've not yet brought it into our Avodas Hashem. We haven't yet made it part of ourselves. We know it. You're not going to hear new things from me. But things which are far, to bring it in. And I'm bringing a whistle. That's why we sing a niggun. Why are you singing a niggun in the middle of a speech? If you ever went to a Torah class, a shir, and they start singing niggunim? Because the idea of a Farbrengen is not to just speak. The idea of the Farbrengen is to open the heart to what we already know. As a matter of fact, I tell the Bachrim, it's not that the nigunim are to give a break of the speeches. The speeches to make a little hefsek between the nigunim. The real ikar of the Farbrengen is the niggun, the Chassidish niggun, to bring it into your heart. You can't just sing nigunim. You have to rest your vocal cords. So you have one rabbi darshaning in between to allow you to rest and be able to sing the next niggun. The idea is that a Farbrengen is not a shir with food. A Farbrengen is not a lecture with Rabbi. A Farbrengen is not, you didn't come to the Farbrengen to get new knowledge per se. Of course, you always hear a new Gedai, the new Vart, but that's not why we come to a Farbrengen. And that's why Chassidim by Farbrengen, I heard when I deal with Bochrim, they complain, you go to the Farbrengen, and the Mashpia says the same story, last Farbrengen, the Farbrengen before, and the Farbrengen next. He's always saying the same story. I said, you didn't come to a shir, to hear a new shir. You came to get something drilled into you. I can tell you, I sat, Rabbi Lavkovsky's brother-in-law, Rabbi Akiva Gershon Wagner, Machal Akiva Gershon, and Rachobati, before Shleim, L'chaim. So I sat 4 years, I was in yeshiva by him, sat endless Farbrengens, endless hours. And at a certain point, we would make a joke. You say, which CD are you saying now, Rabbi Akiva? Like, same story, okay, CD 1, volume 4, track 4. And as a book, you're like, come on, tell me something new. Tell me something I don't know. I've heard this from you before. But then you get married, you go on in life, what stays with you? The stories that you heard 400 times finally penetrate, and those are the only things that get left in your head and your heart. I don't want to say how many shurim of Rabbi Wagner on the Gemara Gittin I remember. I won't tell you. I'll let you guess. Or Shabbos, or the other Masechtas that we learn. Masechtas, they come and they go, because you don't repeat it. I'm not saying it's good. I probably should remember. Fact is, that's not what stayed with me. It's the stories that were repeated again and again and again, drilled into our leva even, our hearts, drilled in again and again and again and again, with the niggin in between. These things stay with us. So I'm giving ourselves a bracha that our frustration comes with expectation. I hope no one came here for another shear. We came here, I want to set the expectations. Not to hear many new things, as much as to take the things we already know and make it real. The things that we have always said, the things that we've always heard, the things that we've always said we believe in, to actually believe in it. I come from Cincinnati, Ohio. So there's a classic story. Rabbi Greenberg asked me, does the city still remember Rabbi Eliezer Silver? Eliezer Silver, he's like Chai Mekayim in Cincinnati. Like, if you ask any from Yid, who are you, Cincinnati? And Bemin's this too? What yichus do you have, Cincinnati? Oh, Eliezer Silver. Eliezer Silver. Rabbi Silver was a big Rav in charge of Agudas Rabbanim, of Artis Abris and Canada, Kiyadua. He was quite a person, quite a character, quite a person. And he had to deal a lot with the strong forces of reform, which make their headquarters in Cincinnati, Ohio. One of the projects that he did was he built a mikveh. Now, the problem was that the building that he bought for his mikveh was adjacent to a reform center, literally right next door. And when the contractor built the mikveh, they went literally a half a foot over the grenitz, like whatever the official line is. Now, legally, if you go over to someone's rishus, the court can make you take it down because you're not allowed to build there. So it came to a point where the reform movement sued Rabbi Silver to take down that wall, which taking down that wall meant taking down the building, taking down everything. It was terrible. And they went to court. Now, Rabbi Silver was very, very close to President Taft. He's from Cincinnati. Howard Taft is the street named after him. He was, him and his family, they were senators, and he was a president, and they were lawyers, and his lawyer was actually Taft's son, was his lawyer. He was well represented, well connected. And they came to a judge, and they're fighting a him, Surik. The judge was an Erlich HaGoy, and looks at the reform person and said, I don't understand. You're two Jewish organizations. You can't give in half a foot? Like what's... You're both admitting that it's not bothering you. You don't have property there. So, like, I don't get what's going on over here. Like, we're talking about a half a foot. Like, you're not using it. They need it. Why? Like, what's this court? Legally, you could win. So what's this court case? I don't get it. And he's speaking not as a judge, but tzedek v'yosher. It doesn't make sense. Why are you taking the rabbi to court over a half a foot? So the head of the reform gets up and he said, Your Honor, it's not about the foot, a half a foot, a quarter of the foot, 10 feet. It's about the ideology. What do you mean? He says, if the rabbi would need it for a gym, if the rabbi needed it for a library, if the rabbi needed it for an education center, a school, we'd be more than happy to give him, we wouldn't even take him to court. But this rabbi is building an ancient mikveh, which is outdated, which is bringing the Jews back to prehistoric, the dinosaur island. He's bringing us back to these ancient things. And we are progressive, we're reformed. We don't believe in this whole hocus pocus purification process. And in general, this rabbi is not just crazy with this mikveh. This rabbi is crazy completely. What do you mean? He says, this rabbi believes radical things. He believes in creation, not evolution. And they list a whole bunch of things until he said, you want to know how crazy he is? He even believes that a donkey once spoke. He believes the biblical narrative that a donkey actually spoke. Ask him. And such a crazy person can't be trusted with anything. Now, the guy wasn't religious, but he was a righteous person. He's never heard of this story. He turns to Rabbi Silver. He says, Rabbi, is that true? You believe that donkeys speak? Like that? You actually believe that? Rabbi Silver was sharp as a whistle. Looked at the judge. He says, Your Honor, I'll tell you the truth. I'm ashamed to say it. For many years, I learned it. I taught it. But I had a hard time saying that I believe it. After hearing this rabbi talk, Your Honor, I believe it. There are a lot of things that we know, but we know it, and we repeat it. The point of the Farbrengen is that we should actually believe it. Should be able to say, Your Honor, I believe it. Now, I believe it. After this Farbrengen, I'm in. I believe it. Nothing new. No new information tonight. I'm sorry if you came to hear new information. We came to just Farbrengen about the information we already know. We came to internalize the truth that we already know. Just allow it to become who we are. Tell you what I'm saying. So we'll sing another nigun. Because again, we're here to sing nigunim. And I'm giving you a few minutes between the nigunim to rest your vocal cords. The fort in Buffalo. So we have to say a Buffalo story. So the character of the story, I know you know. I just don't know if you know this part of the story. If Shazar was an interesting chassid, and Shmuel Munkis was an interesting chassid, Dr. Lazarson is an interesting chassid. The Rebbe has a lot of colorful chassidim. And Dr. Laz increased the Peace Incorporation, a Buffalo native, a Buffalo superstar. What? He's not a superstar today. He's from Buffalo. So Dr. Laz is definitely a colorful chassid, to say the least. So he came to visit us in Cincinnati. Why did he come to visit us? Because he has a grandson. His daughter was married at a certain time to a young man named Rosenberg from Miami. And this Rosenberg family has a bunch of children. One of their sons, his name is Mendel Rosenberg, he lives in Cincinnati. He married a Cincinnati girl. He moved to town. As a matter of fact, as we speak, he's hosting a Farbrengen in his house. So the Shingaman, he lives in Cincinnati. He's the Zayda. I think it was a Simcha. I forgot exactly the Pratim. Came to visit his Einikol. He came to visit his Einikol. And he wanted to come daven Ma'ariv. So he came to his Einikol, brought him to Yeshiva. He came to daven Ma'ariv. He walks into Yeshiva. Now, he doesn't walk in quietly, you know, Dr. Laz. He walks in with the presence and a show. And he's loud. He walks loud. He talks loud. He's just a loud presence in the room. So the yeshiva is about to start Ma'ariv. Dr. Laz walks in, and he sees in the other corner of the Beis Medrash another older chassid. My neighbor, his name is Rabbi Levi Fuss from Crown Heights. His father's name is Aryeh Levi Fuss. And he came to visit his son. I forgot what it was, a sin, whatever it was. He was also there. And he says, Aryeh Fuss! Like he yells out in front of the whole house, we're about to start Ma'ariv. I have to tell you something. So the Mashgiach tells him, we'll speak after Ma'ariv. Fine, we daven Ma'ariv. And he says, can I tell you all a story? So everything has to be in front of everyone. Everything's a show. Everything's a story. He says, Aryeh Fuss, do you remember our last conversation? He says, yeah. They haven't spoken in over 30 years. What's their last conversation? During the riots of Crown Heights, Aryeh Fuss was hit in the head with a crowbar from an African-American youth, probably 15, 16 years old. which that person could have been put into prison. See the guy with the crowbar on the head? Baruch Hashem, he was okay. But when he was in the court sentencing, the judge said that if the defendant is masculine and there's someone that's ready to rehabilitate this kid, take him under his wing and teach him, they'll push off the prison sentence. They won't, if someone's ready to make a mensch out of this kid. Now, Dr. Laz has a Gershon friend. You can actually see that he brought him to the Rebbe. There's a picture of Dr. Laz with the Schwarzer guy by the Rebbe. And he said, this guy is ready to take charge of this kid. The judge said, you have to get verbal permission from the defendant. So he called up Aryeh Leibfuss. And he said, will you allow this guy to take charge of this kid? And Leibfuss said, no problem. It's not about me. It's about that the kid should get help and no one else should get hurt. He says, as far as I know, the conversation ended there. So Dr. Laz says, that's what I want to tell you. The conversation didn't end there. He says, you're about to hear a moifis of the Rebbe. He says, a few months later, Topshin on Olive time, Date on Olive, it's all, you can see this actually on video. There's no soitis here. It was Dr. Laz's birthday. And he calls his Goyish friend, calls him up and says, Rabbi, it's your birthday. What do Jews do on a birthday? That's one of the Chabad customs on the birthday or the Sunday before the birthday. We go to the Rebbe for dollars. They got a bracha for the Yom Haledes. That's what Chassidim always did. So he said, can I join you as you go to your rabbi? He said, sure. Can I bring along some of my friends? Dr. Laz, without beating me up, well, no problem. Dr. Laz, no problem. Bring them all. They come. They make up to, let's say, 3 o'clock, whatever it is, to meet on Eastern Parkway in Kingston. And Dr. Laz, excuse the expression, that Schwarz in the Egen. Because one of the friends, is this kid that beat up Rabbi Fuss with a crowbar. Now, when he expected him to say, I'm bringing friends, didn't think a guy that beat up a chassid. Like, that wasn't the definition of friends in his mind. And if he would have told him that it's him, he would say, don't bring him to the Rebbe. It's a chutzpah. But at this point, the kid is standing there on Eastern Parkway in Kingston. You shouldn't bring him. We share birthdays, me and Meshula. We're soulmates, right? Still. So he brings him a line, and he's so scared. Okay, this kid's gonna bring to the Rebbe. Like he said, even for Dr. Laz, who doesn't have busha, he had busha. Like, gonna bring this kid to the Rebbe. Like, what? Like, he's hiding his face. He brings this kid to the Rebbe. The Rebbe doesn't say anything, and the Rebbe just stares at this kid. You can see on the video. The Rebbe just stares at him, like top to bottom. He doesn't say a word. And they go. When they get out, they meet on the corner, and the friend of Dr. Laz says, I have to go somewhere. For a second, I'll be back. So it's Dr. Laz with this kid. The kid is trembling. The kid is trembling. He says, why are you waiting? He says, I got what the rabbi wants from you. So what? He says, you didn't see that the rabbi looked at me? Yeah. I got his message. What's his message? The rabbi wants me to become a doctor. Now, this guy was illiterate. He couldn't read English. To become a doctor, epis, epis. He says, what do you mean? He said, I'm telling you, the rabbi wants me to become a doctor. And he said, by the way, what's your name? He says, my name is Rayful. The kid's name. My name is Rayful. Rayful, which is the refuah. The kid went to school, he became a doctor. The Rebbe turned them around like this. I mean, it took years and years. You have to learn English, GED. This kid that was beating up Chassidim on the streets. What's the Nikuda? The Nikuda is that the Rebbe, with one look, is enabled to bring out your true name. The true who you are, to match your name. If your name is Rafael, to bring it out in you without saying anything. He brought it out. Tonight, we celebrate the Alter Rebbe, Yisrael Baal Shem Tov. The job of the Farbrengen is that we should match our name. The job of the Farbrengen is that who we say we are, we should actually live by. That we shouldn't be Rayful, the guy beating up people on the street, but Rayful, the doctor, the Goyshe doctor. We should be Chassidim, not in name only. We shouldn't be Chassidim in name only. There's the story that there was one time this kid, his name was Schneider. And Mr. Schneider was drafted to the army. You know, and they come to the army and he said, "What's your name?" Can't say Schneider, doesn't make sense. He said, "My name is Taylor." So they conscript him, he's in the army. And the first day, the lieutenant shows up. He says, "We're looking for Taylor, we're looking for Taylor." Right? Private Taylor is here. Brings him to the general's office, and the guy is shaking and shaking. Who knows what he did wrong the first day? General comes out with a pair of pants, and he says, "No, I need it fitted." He says, No. I'm a tailor in name only. I'm a tailor in name only. Many of us are Chassidim in name only. Chassidim Chabad. Our job tonight is that our life should match our name. L'chaim, Chassidim. The night is young. But this is what a Farbrengen is. The things which are far should bring in, that we should be real. Chassidim for real. L'chaim.
Hey, before we continue, just to make a small break, since it's a Shnas Hakel and the Rebbe requested, pleaded that we do everything in our power to be a Hakel Yid, one of the Hayrais that the Rebbe said was to fill a Hakel card, Kartise Hakel, where every person could commit to organize a Hakel gathering. It could be anything at home, with friends, at work, community, and to write it down. So it has a toikef. So we're going to leave this on the table where the Chalukas Hashas paper is. And one of the halakas that we could come out from this Farbrengen is to add in the name of Hakel. And it's the fear if it's something simple that could be done, not just to be yotzeh, but we could really do it fairly easily. There also requested that we should do everything in our power to advertise the Yidden about Hakel. The newspapers, we have a way to connect to other Yidden, today social media, or any other means, but to share the message of Hakel. And finally, the greatest Hakel is all Yidden gathered together, marching to Yerushalayim to Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, with Mashiach Tzidkenu. So this is going to be left on the table where the Chalukas Hashas paper is. Feel free to take as many as you need, and more could be prepared. We're also going to share, B'rtz Hashem, tomorrow a link with a lot of Hakel resources, from sichos to yomanim to practical ideas. A good resource that everyone could use at home, at work, with friends, with Bukuravim, and please take advantage of it. We'll continue with Farbrengen.
Chaim. If you ask any Lubavitcher Chosid, what's the real story of Yutes Kislev? There's the story and the real story. My children also go to a day school, but not run by Lubavitch in Cincinnati. And every year, I have to remind the administration that don't be shocked when the Chabad kids come in Big Day Shabbos. It could be a Tuesday. You have these girls walking in with Shabbos dresses and the boys with the white shirts. I try to give them a heads up about like what's going to be happening. It's not like I try to explain to them this minig over 200 years that Chassidim Chabad, and I always try to remind them that if you really think that you're a community school, at least once a year you should have a Lubavitcher come and at least address to the kids what the story of Yutes Kislev is. Why are all the Lubavitcher kids dressed up today? Like, what's the story? What happened today? So I got an email from the assistant principal. Don't worry, Rabbi Avtzon. I will tell the children in the assembly today the story of Yutes Kislev. I'll tell them tomorrow. I go, I'm traveling, so I'm not going to be able to remind you tomorrow. Yesterday. I'll tell them for a few minutes the story of Yutes Kislev. Now, we all know that the story that he's going to say is not the story that, and even though the facts are the same, the Alter Rebbe went to prison on trumped-up charges. The Alter Rebbe was freed from prison, and we celebrate Yutes Kislev. That's the story. But every Lubavitcher knows that there's a real story. That there was a kitrug, the Alter Rebbe was teaching Chassidus, and there was a kitrug, there was a gzeira shamayim, and by releasing the Alter Rebbe, it was a heskim, it was a ishur, it was a permission given to continue the ways of the Alter Rebbe. That's the real story. We're not just celebrating the Rebbe that went to prison and came out of prison. We're celebrating the back end, the real story that took place in Shemayim, which played itself out in the prison cell. That story will not be told in Cincinnati Hebrew Day School. They don't know of such a story. I don't know if they would believe such a story, the administrators. Really? There's a whole back end to the story. Why can't you say there was just a story, the way you see it? But we know this. You don't need me to tell you this. But I really often wonder if we asked ourselves, what was truly so scary in Shemayim about what the Alter Rebbe was teaching? What exactly was so scary that there was a whole kitrug in Shemayim? Why did the Baal Shem Tov himself not sit in prison? The Baal Shem Tov seems to be the founder of Chassidus. He was Meyasid Chassidus. Baal Shem Tov started Chassidus. If there's anyone that should sit in prison, it should be the Baal Shem Tov. Everyone comes from the Baal Shem Tov. Chassidim comes behemshech of the Baal Shem Tov. Why did the Baal Shem Tov not sit in prison? The Maggid didn't sit in prison. Talmidei HaMaggid did not sit in prison. Most of them. The Alter Rebbe sits in prison. What about Chassidus Chabad is so scary in Shemayim that's it? We have to put the Alter Rebbe in prison. He went too far. What happened? What was the story? So I want to share with you that there's an interesting letter. When the Rebbe got engaged and married, he started writing to the Frierdiker Rebbe many shilas on the Yesoidus of Chassidus. Very challenging questions. And these questions are very thought-provoking, and it made the Frierdiker Rebbe write long, extensive answers. And one of the questions was written in the year Tafrei Tzadik Beis. And the Tafrei Tzadik Beis was an interesting year. The Frierdiker Rebbe was in Riga, Latvia, in Tafrei Tzadik Aleph, 1931. At a certain point, he told his secretaries that he's having separation anxiety. He can't be away from the Bochum. The Bochum Yeshiva was in Varsha. Avtzon, Poland. He says, my father appointed me as the Manal of the Yeshiva. Being away from the Bochum is too difficult for me. That's where I belong. So either I'm going to move to them in Avtzon, or I'm going to open up a branch of Yeshiva with me in Riga. I can't be without Bochum. That was his. So he went Tishrei Tafrei Tzadik Beis. The Frierdiker Rebbe went and spent a wonderful Yom Tov in Poland, in Avtzon. Our Rebbe came to visit his father-in-law in Avtzon. After Tishrei, for whatever reason, the Frierdiker Rebbe said that he's not staying in Poland. He's going back to Riga, and he's going to open up a branch of Tefillah Tmimim next to him. The Rebbe went with the Frierdiker Rebbe, brought back home, and then he left back to Berlin. The Frierdiker Rebbe was in Berlin then. When the Rebbe got back to Berlin, he wrote a letter to the Frierdiker Rebbe. And he said, my dear father-in-law, I'm not going to say exactly the words, but I'm going to ask you a question that's been bothering me, and I want to know how you're going to explain it. He said like this, it's a very, very deep question. He said, we Chasidei Chabad go around saying that we are the direct extension of the Baal Shem Tov. We are continuing the derech of the Baal Shem Tov. Says the Rebbe, but it looks like that it's not true. Look at the way the Baal Shem Tov taught Torah, very short, verklach. It looks like the Chassidim of Poland are continuing the path of the Baal Shem Tov, and we are on our own journey. Chassidus Chabad, we've created a whole different, not bad, but how can we say that we are continuing what the Baal Shem Tov started? The whole derech of the Baal Shem Tov is very, very different than our derech. The whole Baal Shem Tov's Torah could be in 2 svarim, and Chassidus Chabad doesn't finish. Books and books and books, svarim, bookcases and bookcases. One mimer of the Mittler Rebbe is longer than the whole Kesher Shem Tov. Like, what does this mean that we are continuing the derech of the Baal Shem Tov? Seemingly, the Polish Hasidim, they're continuing the derech of the Baal Shem Tov, and the Alter Rebbe created his own derech. Right? So there's a 19-page answer to this question, which the Friedrich Rebbe says, "B'mayna al sheiloscha ha'amuka b'yoyser." In response to your extremely deep question, because it's a question on the whole foundation of Chassidus Chabad. Who are we? Are we really Chassidus? He says, I'm going to give you the answer in 3 lines, and then he spends 20 pages explaining the answer. I think I'll stick to the 3 lines. I'll leave the 20 pages for everyone else to read. And the Friedrich Rebbe says like this: Toras of Chassidus has 2 parts. In the Gilui of Toras of Chassidus, there are 2 stages, and they're both equally important. You can't have one without the other. One needs the other. One stage is someone has to tell us what the expectations are. What are the expectations? In Chinuch B'chlal, someone has to tell us. If a kid doesn't know the expectations, he'll never get there. I always say, if you can't type in your destination to your GPS, to your Waze, you probably will never get there. It first starts with putting in an address. The journey could be 20 miles or 20 hours or 20 weeks away. But a real journey starts with an address. If there's no destination, we're going nowhere. We're going in circles. We're doing akafas. Right? You need a destination. The journey starts with a destination. But that's not enough. There's someone that has to teach you how to get to the destination. There are 2 parts of the puzzle. It says the Baal Shem Tov set the standard. He gave us the destination. The Alter Rebbe taught us how to get to the destination. Without the Alter Rebbe, we wouldn't be able to have Toras HaBaal Shem Tov. Without the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov, we wouldn't have the Alter Rebbe. But when the Baal Shem Tov revealed his Torah, it was so that the Alter Rebbe would come next and teach how to get there. Now, what's more threatening? The destination or the ability to get to the destination? The destination itself is very threatening. But just to say we're going to reach the moon, okay. But if no one knows how to do it, that's okay. The Sultan is not scared. If no one knows how to get to the goal, that's okay. The scary part happens when the manual of how to reach the destination comes out. In the words of one of our holy Rabbi, says the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov is Roish HaMechanchim, and the Alter Rebbe is Roish HaMadrichim. That's how the Rebbe Rashab was magdir, the difference between the Alter Rebbe and the Baal Shem Tov. What's the difference between a Mechanech and a Madrich? What does it mean that the Baal Shem Tov is Roish HaMechanchim and the Alter Rebbe is Roish HaMadrichim? The Baal Shem Tov Mechanech sets the goals, the destination, where you should get to. What should you strive for? A Madrich works with you to get there. A Madrich is someone that is your coach, that brings you to the destination that the Mechanech put down. The Baal Shem Tov was Roish HaMechanchim. He told us what is the ideal avodas Hashem, what we should strive for, what we should try to get. The Alter Rebbe is Roish HaMadrichim. The Alter Rebbe is the one that teaches us, if we follow the derech of the Alter Rebbe, how to get to what the Baal Shem Tov wanted. That was very, very scary in Shemayim. You know, let me tell you, Cincinnati is not a very, very famous city. A little, at least had Rabbi Silver. We have a neighbor in city that's even less famous. There's like nobody left here. It's called Dayton, Ohio. Dayton, Ohio is 40 miles north of where I live. It's if Cincinnati is not a Ir V'Ein Yisrael, Dayton is like the adopted younger brother. It's like completely, no, like most people have never even heard of Dayton. But Dayton is actually, we have a lot to, every time we fly a plane, we have to think of Dayton, Ohio. Because the Wright brothers, they built their plane in Dayton, Ohio. They were bicycle people in Dayton, Ohio. As a matter of fact, the claim to fame for Dayton, Ohio is the home of the Wright brothers. That's where they were from, a little town in Dayton. I took my kids recently, so I'm going to take you on a trip. Everyone knows the best Chalamoy trips are the trips that take a lot of time, don't cost a lot of money. That's a very good Chalamoy trip. Wow, we know that kids to have fun, it's not about how much money it costs. You know, you take your kids to the big amusement park, then you go to 7-Eleven for the Slurpee at the end, and that's the highlight of the whole trip. What a great day, we got a Slurpee. What about the $50 you took to get into the park? No, that Slurpee, the 99 cents, that's a Salem at Ayom. That makes their whole day. It's not the expense. It's not the expensive presents to Yidua. But anyway, I took my kids. I said, I'm going to bring you to a very, very chashuv place in the world. We drove 45 minutes, and we came to a field. And you can Google it. The name of the field is called Huffman Prairie. That's the name of the field. It's an empty field. My kids are like, Tom, what? Like, I know you want free trips, but like, nothing? Empty field? What are we doing here? It's like, this is a hidden cemetery? Like, what exactly are we doing here? I said, you know what happened in this field? This is where the planes flew for the first time. This is where they built and practiced their plane, was on this field right here. They had a whole wind thing, and they broke the plane 100 times. The first real circles took place in this field right here. Every plane that flies in the world today started in this field. Think about that. People have been dreaming. The goal of flying has been around forever. But how to fly was a secret. Nobody knew. It's a great idea. Let's fly in the sky. Be like the eagles. To actually fly, to actually know how to do it, that was the chidush. That was phenomenal. That took hundreds and hundreds of years. That was the key that was missing. And that's what the Alter Rebbe did. The Alter Rebbe took the goals of the Baal Shem Tov, which would have only remained Halakha goals to reach, but enabled us to actually reach there. I'll tell you what Ma'isa. The Tzemach Tzedek was once Farbrengen with Chassidim. The Hektiv. It was one year, Erev Rosh Hashanah, that Rebbe Marash walked into his father's room, Erev Rosh Hashanah, and he saw that Tzemach Tzedek was pacing back and forth. And he was in a very, very not good mood, at least I'll be the way it seemed to Gashmias. He was sad, depressed, wasn't happy. And Rebbe Marash later told Rebbe Rashab that originally he thought that maybe because the next year was going to be a Iber Yor, the Rabbeim were always choishes for Iber Yor. They were Milas, not a Zman from Dinim. He thought maybe that Tzemach Tzedek was nervous about the upcoming Iber Yor. He didn't know why the Tzemach Tzedek is so frustrated. Finally, he asked him, he says, Tata, what's bothering you? So he said, this coming year is 50 years, it's 50 years that I didn't sit by a Chassidische Farbrengen. So the Rebbe Marash said, what does he say? The Tata sits by Farbrengen. He says, no. First of all, when you're a Rebbe, you're leading the Farbrengen, not sitting by the Farbrengen. He says, but even when I was younger, the moment the Chassidim chapped who I was, that Alter Rebbe was Mechav him a lot, they stopped letting him sit with them by Farbrengen. Whenever he would come, they would tense up, they would let him speak, whatever it was. They would be careful what they said. He wasn't one of them anymore. It says they're 50 years as a chazitznish by Chassidische Farbrengen. it was robbed from me, the ability to just sit between chassidim, so to come, and everyone's deferential, it's not sitting by Farbrengen. Some said it's 50 years. But anyways, I don't know if this was during the 50 years or before 50 years. At one point, the Tzemach Tzedek was Farbrengen. And the Tzemach Tzedek got the chassidim to dance. And the chassidim were dancing with the MSK. They were jumping and they were dancing. It was Levitik, Avtzon Bank. And they were singing Ashreinu Matol Cholkeinu. They were just so excited. And the Tzemach Tzedek stopped when it was like reaching its high point. The crescendo was mamish. Sitting, we're getting into it. Like over here, everyone's dancing already. We're already getting into it. And he said, Avos, what are we so happy about? What's Ashreinu Matol Cholkeinu? What did the Alter Rebbe give us that we're so excited? What did the Zayda give us that we're so excited about? Like he killed the moment. Everyone sat down. Oh, you bust the bubble. So everyone sat down. This one said this one. This one said this one. And finally, one chassid said an interesting word. He said the Rebbe hat gemacht a reshus achoyim. The Rebbe gemacht a reshus achoyim. Translated into English, that the Alter Rebbe upped the game, and he took things which until now people would say, "Oh, like they're chumris, I don't have to do it. They're reshus, maybe." And he made it that we're responsible. He upped our responsibility. He upped our expectations. That until now, there are certain things which are reshus. No, we don't have to do it. If we want, if we're holy, we should do it. But the Alter Rebbe with Chassidus, gemacht from reshus achoyim, he made us responsible. That became basics that we have to live a higher standard. Now, these days, that's not something people would dance about. People want to hear less and less and less. But those days, that was a reason to celebrate. Wow, got more responsibility. Today, it's like the last thing you want to hear. Least responsibility, let's dance. Even less, dance more. Even less, no responsibility, dance even more. Those days, being given responsibility was like something we're celebrating. Just imagine that, just for a moment. So they thought that the Tzemach Tzedek would be happy with that answer. Tzemach Tzedek said, no, not happy. He said, so you tell us. So what was Nischadish the Alter Rebbe? Now sometimes you ask a rhetorical question. That they knew that Tzemach Tzedek wanted to say something. So he said, this is the Chiddush from der Zayden. What's the Chiddush of the Alter Rebbe? He gave us the ability to pay the debt. The word choiv could either mean debt or could mean responsibility. Choiv. He said not just that the Alter Rebbe lifted our standards. That I could also tell my kids, I want a higher standard from you. I want you to live on the highest standard. So what? I can't do it. I want you to be the best person. Okay, I want you to. So what? He gave us the ability to pay the choyim. He gave us the ability to live by those standards. Now that is been celebrated. Not just that the standards were told to us. That the Baal Shem Tov did. The Alter Rebbe gave us the ability to live by those standards. That is what we're celebrating Yutas Kislev. We're celebrating the ability to actually live by the standards that the Rabbeim want from us. The Alter Rebbe and our holy Rabbeim didn't just tell us what they want, they gave us the ability to do what they want. I mean, just look at this, just look around this room. So I came and I made a comment to Rabbi Haratonov. I said that my Zayda wrote a sefer, Oires Ba'afela. So I said, the Farbrengen here is Oires Ba'afela in Buffalo, Oires Ba'afela. I said, Rabbi Avtzon, you said it wrong. Buffalo is not Afela, it's Boy Pele. Right? That's what you said. It's not about it's not finster stuff. It's boy pella. Now be'emes, we are so spoiled. We are so spoiled that we don't recognize the pella that takes place every single day. We are very, very, very spoiled people. I remember, so I was in camp in Chayali HaMelech one summer. It's been many summers there, but one summer I was there, and I had a man that was directing my yeshiva guys. His name is Moshe Fuss. He's the brother of this lady Fuss who lives in Cincinnati, and now he's in Shlichus somewhere in Northern California. Now, he was working on this shlichus for a few months, and finally, I don't know what became official. So they had in the camp, they have the dining room for the different kids, the programs, and they have for the families a staff dining room, the side of the kitchen. So by the supper table, he announced, "Oh, I'm moving on shlichus with Hashem to whatever city in California." That was the announcement. Now. So who's in the camp? You had some Lubavitcher, Chanchen teachers in the camp. You also had some not Lubavitchers. They were the bus driver, or the MT, or whatever they were. But the families, who just everyone sat together. It was very nice. What do you think happened? Just imagine the supper table. What do you think happened after the announcement? The Lubavitchers went, "Oh, very nice," and continued eating supper. The other people went, "What? You're moving out of your community? What's going to be with your kids?" They were like going crazy. Like their whole supper was ruined. For like the next hour, they couldn't figure out how a younger man is going to move to Northern California and by himself. They were asking questions, who's supporting him, where's he? All the questions that you may ask, who knows what they're asking. The Lubavitcher were just like continuing with the supper. Okay, nothing going on. Why is that? Because we're so spoiled to the idea that, oh yeah, it's normal. A guy's gonna leave his whole family, move out, they're just gonna live nowhere, do nothing, and it's just so normal. Of course, that's what you do. Just go on, what's next on the menu? For these people, they couldn't handle it. What? You're really doing that? Like this is the first time they met like a Jew with horns, like a real shaliach. Like, you're the real Jew. This is it. You're really doing this? Like they heard about it. They read about it in the Army magazine or something. But this is it. This is a real guy. He's really, really doing it. This guy is. They were going crazy. They didn't eat for like the next week, trying to figure out how a younger man just goes on shlichus. It didn't make any sense to them. They couldn't handle it. Couldn't fathom that it's true. You know, the Chassidus Shoelam, you know, the Zayda, it's like 10 generations with one building. You know, they just stay with it. Kahila grows that way. Stays. We are so spoiled to the great chaya that our Rebbe gives us. There can be Buffalo, New York, and man sitzt zwischen 30 Chassidischen in the light. It's super. It's unbelievable. It's a moifis that we just take and we're just continuing what's on the course. So how's the schnitzel? But that's what we celebrate. We celebrate the koyach that the Rabbeim give us. Every Yid knows that the best thing is to have Ahavas Yisrael and Mesiras Nefesh. You ask any Chassidish Yid, is it the best thing to go out and be Mekadosh Yidden? The best thing. So why aren't they doing it? They just don't feel they have the ability to do it. Just because you know it's right doesn't mean you feel you have the ability to do what's right. Yutes Kislev, we don't just celebrate what we know to be right. That we all knew. The Rebbe's Chiddush was the ability to do what's right. To be the Rosh HaMadrichim, to open the koyach, to batzol in their choy. Now that is worth celebrating. So l'chaim chasidim. Let's not underestimate the koyches that we have. Let's not be so spoiled that we forget the treasure that we have. We all have koiches of our Rebbe. And if we allow ourselves to ask ourselves, what can we do with these koiches? Things will look very different. I'll tell you one more mice and we'll sing it about Rebbe's name. Yeah, Master Rabbi Lober. This is a Peladiga Maisa. We're down in the Friedrich Rebbe Sichas. The story goes like this. There's akdama to the story. You have to be careful how we say it, but the kids aren't listening, so it doesn't matter. The Alter Rebbe, after the Istalkus of the Magid, which is Yortzeit Judas Kislev, we seem to forget that in Chabad. It's also the Magid Yortzeit. No, the first time I heard it, it was like from Polish, like when I was like 20. You know? It's like sometimes like something gets forgotten somewhere along the storyline that it's also the Magid Yortzeit tonight. But the Magid Yortzeit is tonight. So after the Magid passed away, the Alter Rebbe was mekasher himself to the Mendel Horodoker, Mendel Vitebsk. That was the next move for a couple of years. Until the Mendel Horodoker decided that he's going to. Now, originally, the Alter Rebbe went with him, and he traveled hundreds of miles. He traveled and traveled until the Mendel Horodoker told him, no, you have to go back. Chassidim need you in Russia. Your shlichus is in Russia. The Magid told it to you. He told the whole story with a dream, the whole story. Fine. I'm not getting into that parsha, the Nesiya. The Alter Rebbe is heading back. Because the Alter Rebbe is heading back, he ends up in cities that he would never have traveled in on his own, because now he's going back all these miles, you know. When you go to the Farbrengen, the miles go quick, you know, when it goes back, it's like the trip seems like it's forever. Oh, really? Going back is not easy. Now, the Rebbe was also going back all by himself. He went with the whole group of Chassidim on this trip to Eretz Yisrael. Now the Rebbe is wandering back himself. The Rebbe lands in a city, a shtetl, and he has to stay there for Shabbos. While he's in the city, he asks, you know, what's the matzah in the city? Anything I can help? Anything going on? They didn't know who he was. They understood that they can tell right away, Chachmas Odom Torah Pano, that it's the Eben Yid. Right? You don't have to know the Alter Rebbe to see the Alter Rebbe. So they said, yeah. As a matter of fact, we have a very, very big issue in our city. A big issue in our city. An issue that's perplexing all the Rabbanim for 2 years. We can't figure out what to do. What's the story? You probably heard the story. That there was a woman that she can't become Torah. Every time, right before there's blood, you can't become Torah. This lady locked herself up. She did this, she did that. She doesn't make sense. But every time in the morning, there's a stain. 2 years. The son of the Rav, I think the daughter, it was like a big, they don't know what to do. They're going crazy in the city. Now, the Gemara tells us that to be makir, being dam the dam, I'm just making actually see now, Anita. This is real. This Kislev, I have one more dam for my Kislev, so it says, my siyum Anita. But the Gemara tells us that the Kabbalah of colors in red itself was lost. Only the Nevi'im. It's not something that we can know. In color, red and not red, but in red, in the different shades, you know, it's something that we go figure out what's coming from this or behind this or that. So they brought to the Alter Rebbe. Now, the Rebbe said, I'm telling you, this is from a bird. It's not from a person. They said, what? I'm telling you, this is from a bird. It's not from a human. They prove it. Says, go lock her up somewhere, like Mamish. Lock her up. Sure enough, they lock her up in a place that no windows, no nothing. Mamish. Goes by a few weeks, no problem. Comes out. The kid said that there was another woman that wanted to get engaged to her husband. They were very jealous when they got engaged to her. She was her friend. And every time she was her friend and found out She was Yumei Tada, so at night she would check the bird, kill a bird, and spritz blood of the bird. And that was the story. It caused a big rash in the city. But here's a young man that comes, and one day can answer the whole story that's going on in the city for 2 years. Not Stama, it's a Shaila Halacha. That can have Kabbalah like Nevi'im. It's not the Chachamim, your eyes can't tell. There was a Yid in that city. Was a big Eloi. And he would sit a whole day in the Beis Medrash. I think his name was Mordechai, I forget his name. And he followed, he said, after this story, he's following wherever he goes, I go. He's a Talmud of the Alter Rebbe likes it or not. He spent 3 years without, he was from the first class of the Chadorim. He was in with the Alter Rebbe. After 3 years, Alter Rebbe tells him, now it's your job to go back to that city in the middle of nowhere. You were my shliach to that city. You have to bring cities to that city. You're from that city. Let's go back to that city. Alter Rebbe would do that a lot. People, if they were from a city, like Rabbi Feller was from Minnesota, that's why he was sent back to Minnesota. In Troy, New York, I don't know how far Troy is from Buffalo. Rabbi Morrison's the shliach. He was a student in the Troy University. They said, you came from the university, let's go back and shliach to the university. A lot of times they would send people back to the places that they came. That's their shlichus, to go back to that place. So Alter Rebbe told him, you have to go back. 3 years go by. The guy's back. And they said, no, where were you for 3 years? No, so what's that? 3 years away meant 3 years away. No one knew where you were, what you did. He says, remember that goy that came to the city? I followed him on his Talmud. Great. They remembered, Makatoy, it's about them. So they asked him, tell me, what do you learn by him? So he gets up in shul. And he says, like this, before I went to the Alter Rebbe, I thought a lot about the Eibishter. After I went to the Alter Rebbe, I'm starting to think a lot about myself. But the whole city went, what? If he would have said, before I went to the Alter Rebbe, I thought about myself. After I went to the Alter Rebbe, I thought about the Eibishter. That makes a lot of sense. What does it mean that before you went to the Alter Rebbe, you thought about the Eibishter? And now you thought about yourself. Doesn't make any sense. It's opposite of what the Chassidus is about. He says, you misunderstood what I'm saying. He says, until I met the Alter Rebbe, when I saw that there were other people that didn't know about the Eibishter, didn't know about Yiddishkeit, Avodas Hashem, I said, it's the Eibishter's job, he'll take care of it. I didn't make myself part of the solution. The Eibishter. I thought about the Eibishter a lot. He'll deal with it. I can sit and learn, he'll deal with it. After I went to the Alter Rebbe, I started thinking, what do I have to do about it? Alter Rebbe trained us that we can't say, oh, the Eibishter will take care of it. I started thinking about myself, not about my ego, but about what I can do to be part of the solution. That's the chiddush of the Alter Rebbe. Now, a lot of people, they really don't feel that they can be part of the solution, because what do I have? Really? I'm going like this one, or I'm a Rav like this one, or a Shliach like this one, or the Miyuchas like this one. Meila. But I'm a simple guy. What do I have to bring to the table? What do I have to bring to the table? What can I do? I'm not this one, I'm not this one, and I'm not that one. I don't have the right first name, middle name, or last name. I can go to this yeshiva, that yeshiva, I don't have this job and that job. I'm just a simple guy. That is the opposite of Yutas Kislev. That mindset is destructive because that absolves you from doing anything. And that's not why the Alter Rebbe sat in prison, so that he should continue working. The Alter Rebbe didn't sit in prison that he should continue the Avodah. The Alter Rebbe sat in prison to let us know that we could be doing the Avodah. And that's what we have to do. Yutas Kislev. Walking out of Farbrengen of Yutas Kislev, the question is not stopping to think about the Eibishter Chas v'Shalom, but stop allowing ourselves to say that the Eibishter will take care of things, and start asking the question, what can I do? Now, some people can do more, or it's not about more and less. It's the attitude with what you do it with. The Eibishter doesn't judge big and small by amounts. The Eibishter judges big and small about how we do it in our heart. We can do something small, but it's so precious to the Eibishter. It's a lot. We can do a lot, but you do it for yourself. I'll tell you one more ma'aseh, then we'll say l'chaim for real. Sydney. There's a Yid. You probably heard about the l'chaim. He has a very, very unique name. That's why people remember his name. Most people don't have a name called Gimple. But there's a Yid, he passed away recently. His name is Gimple Ormland. He's the one that I'm waiting with the Rebbe that his kid was literally like he was killed. He was in a car accident, mamish. He was in the freezer. And the Rebbe brought him back to life, told that, and they've been seeing the whole story. He's now, I don't know where he's now, the son. He was in Spas, he was in New Jersey for, I don't know where the son is now. What? You ever heard of the Ormland family? But he has one son that married my wife's cousin. So by the Sheva Brachas, he asked the Shus to speak. He said, can I say a ma'aseh from Rebbe? Of course, say a ma'aseh to Rebbe. He said after his son came back to life, he really wanted to do something special for the Rebbe. Something he really, really wanted to do. Thank you. So he decided he's going to come to a kafis. He heard that by a kafis, you could buy a pasuk and be machabed the Rebbe. Well, that would be a big honor. We'll buy a pasuk, be machabed the Rebbe. That'll be his money. What are you going to give the Rebbe? What are you going to give the Rebbe as a present? What are you going to give him? Actually, I could ask Rabbi Grimes. The true story. They said that your father once went to told the carpenter. Is that a true story with the amut? They said it's a bocher. The Rabbi told the carpenter wants to build a very special amut to daven for a very, very big rabbi. So he came to 770, a huge thing. How big rabbi was. But the Nakud is what's going to show give him the Rebbe? What did he give to them? It doesn't have. Rebbe gives us. What did he give him? Buy a pasuk. So he came to 770. This guy, the one time the Rabbi announced that you could buy a pasuk. Other mechabes at the Rebbe, other are good to friend. Either you give the pasuk to a Rebbe or a good friend. And the Rebbe stopped and said, "What's can I do to good to friend? Why can't I be a good friend? The Rebbe, other good to friend. The Rebbe is also a good friend." But anyways, the Nekuda is that he came to the Rebbe, came to the 770, and they were auctioning off the psukim. He said he's buying a pasuk, and they asked him how much. And he said $1,000. Again, $1,000 is still a lot of money today. Those days, it was a big amount. Everyone's like impressed. Give me $1,000 to the Rebbe. Then it's quiet. He's looking around. Why is it quiet? He looks ahead. Everyone's looking at the Rebbe. Everyone's like this to him. 5,000. 5,000. You can't afford 1,000. So he would say yes or no. The Rebbe says fine. After Yom Tov, he sells, like, who knows what he sold, auctions, mortgages, I don't know what he did. He comes with $5,000 to the Rebbe. Here's the money. The Rebbe tells him, I have a good idea for business for you. Go to Florida. He was never in Florida before. The Rebbe says, buy the first piece of real estate that you offer. The Rebbe says, I don't know. The problem I forget, he goes to Florida, they offer him a building. He buys the building, he had to borrow money, he buys a building. The kids there, then the government needed it. He flipped it in a few months and he got $50,000. That building that he bought, he flips for $50,000 profit. And it's verstanden that the Rebbe is giving him back. The Rebbe took the mice in advance. The Rebbe is giving him back 10 times the amount that he gave the Rebbe. So he tells the Oilam by Sheva Brachas. He says, the next year, I came to Kafis, and I said, I knew this thing works. So I said, I'm buying a pasuk for the Rebbe. And the Rabbi asked, how much? I didn't give one. I said, I'll das Rebbe. I'm giving the Rebbe a blank check. Let the Rebbe fill in 100,000, 200,000. This thing works. To be partners with the Rebbe works. So he gives a next monthly octave, gives a blank check to the Rebbe. In those days, you didn't have online accounts. How did you know what the check was for? It would come back in the mail. Check. He's waiting for it to come back and say 20, 30, 40, 50, 100,000. $18. $18 come back in the mail. $18. He was heartbroken. Heartbroken. So he went to Yechidus to the Rebbe. Because I told the Rebbe, I don't understand. Last year I offered one, you asked me 5. This year I offer you a blank check, give me $18. The Rebbe told him, I don't know, he told me the Lashon, but again, I don't think he was saying the exact Lashon. He says, last year, Farbrengen. You had it was a big decision to come from 1 to 5. It was a big decision internally. I'm not going to do it. It's tough. You broke yourself, and that made you a keli for the bracha. You went beyond yourself. This year you came with Gaiva. You wanted to be my partner. $18 is enough for me. You came because it's worth to come. You came with an attitude. Oh, I'll give them about 18,000. I'll get back 180,000. Like, there was no bittul involved in this contract this year. So $18 is enough. It's not about the amount of money. I know Shluchim say yes, it is. No, I'm saying it's not about the amount that the Rebbe. Is it with bittul or not? That's the question. If it's with bittul, you get brachas. If you're looking to make a deal with the Rebbe because it's worth it for you, it doesn't. Let's use the koiches that we have, that we truly, truly have. Many times we don't appreciate what we have because we have it. And it's only when you hear it from somebody else, or as we show them, if you lose it, that you appreciate what you have. I imagine most of us around this table grew up learning Chassidus Chabad, hearing about it, learning it from a very, very young age. And someone's going to ask you, so what's the power of Chassidus? It's like, what's the power of wearing pants? That's what we do. What do you know? That's the thing, like, what's the power? What does it do? That's what we do. It's not something really to think about, like, what's it all about? And I want to share with you a conversation I had with a friend of mine that really, really opened my mind and perspective to appreciate what we have. I had in my class, about Yeshiva Ocean Parkway, a classmate Now, this classmate came from a very, very difficult background. There's a shliach in Toronto, which is a neighbor of Buffalo, across the border, but still a neighbor. His name is Rabbi Spalter. Lives in Thornhill or about Gate. I'm not sure if he's been here. I don't know who he is. Rabbi Spalter. He has a bunch of brothers, shluchim in different places. I think one in Costa Rica, other places. Spalter. So his father, Rabbi Spalter's father, had a brother. Now this brother, when he was during the war escaping from Europe, he changed his name. Changed his name from Spalter to Doron. That was the name he changed. I'm not sure if it was a passport that he got, like a lot of Hasidim who changed their name, or somehow he had a Zionist. I know exactly how the name changed from Spalter to Doron. That was the name, but the real name was Spalter. As a matter of fact, this person actually has a son now that lives in Toronto. His name is Yoel Doron. He moved from Melbourne to Toronto a couple of years ago. This family, the Spalter Doron family, they lived in Flatbush, near where Mount Yeshiva Ocean Parkway. Now the father, his brother, considered himself a Lubavitcher. I think he lived in Borough Park. The Spalter father lived in Borough Park. But he didn't consider himself a Lubavitcher, and he wasn't planning on sending his kids to Lubavitcher Yeshiva. He had to register his kids in school, and he got a rude awakening that school cost money. He didn't have it. And when he went to sit down with the Rashak, who ran Ocean Parkway, the Rashak told him, send us your boys, pay what you can. The ikar is that the Kinderlach should learn, which was a revolutionary concept then and today. And he told them the words, Henli HaNefesh. Give me the kids. A bunch of boys. We'll deal with the money when you can, if you can. So the Vaila, a bunch of his boys, learned in Ocean Parkway. One is in my class. Life wasn't so easy for these boys. The parents got divorced, remarried to each other, divorced again. Then the wife died very young. And the younger brother, his name was Binyamin, he also passed away very young. Very, very difficult upbringing. The kids, echad, were very, very smart. Both parents were big professors. The mother was very, very learned. The father wrote Sforim on Rashi. He brought it to the Rebbe. You can see him come back to the Rebbe with the Sforim on Rashi. His own Biurim on Rashi. Yes, Sforim on Rashi. Big Malumah. He was a very good. I think he also was a vet. If he's alive, I'm sorry, but he was. And this son, who's my class, name is Tzvi Yosef. He was in our class until Zal age, through what we call high school, Sifra. Then he went off to find himself. University, going to be this and that. He went on a long journey of life until he became a doctor. And all this time, he remained frum. But he was very, very staunchly modern Orthodox, what we would call very not Chabad. He has all these Lubavitcher friends, probably his only friends, very respectful person, but very, very, and I didn't hear from him for many, many years. One Elul or something, or Tishrei, in Crown Heights, a friend of mine tells me, oh, did you hear the news? I was already married with a few children. A friend of mine tells me, did you hear that Tzvi Yosef is a chassid? Where is he? I'm not sure. He's a chassid. When's his wedding? I don't know, 6 months from now. Next year, I don't know when the wedding is. A couple years. Okay, I heard this in my head and I stored it in my brain. Went back home after Yom Tov. I forgot about that. It was Leil Chav Chesed.
Chav Chesed is the birthday of the Rebbe Hashem. And for whatever reason, a lot of times the yeshiva, they split this mashpia. There's this night Farbrengen, that Farbrengen. So it wasn't my turn to Farbrengen Chav Chesed. So it wasn't my slot. So I was sitting at home, Farbrengen with myself. I was thinking to myself, it's not the Rebbe Hashem. If we truly believe the Rebbe chooses the neshamas, so I should find out what's going on with my friend. He's a chassid. What's going on with him? I have to track him down. Find a friend who has his number, a friend of a friend of a friend. Called three people. I get his number. I call him up. And I call him. I say, I've been spoken to him over 10 years. Going to Shim Mazel Tov. I'm sorry, but I can't invite all my friends to the chassid. Like a small chassid. Problem. But I wasn't, you have to apologize. No problem. So why are you calling? I said, first of all, to wish you mazel. Today, I want to offer you to learn you the minor of the chassid. I'm not going to say it. I'm going to say it. I'm offering you to learn the minor of the chassid. Right away, the conversation got all of a sudden, they're nice. It went nowhere. I am never going to learn the mind of the chassid. An intense reaction. Just say no. The Poel story. I said at the very least, would you go to the chuppah without the Rebbe's niggy? The Poel he did. He asked the scholar. Well, he went to the chuppah without the Rebbe. But that was like an hour later in the conversation. I asked him, and this is my main point. I asked him, why not? It's popular. I'm telling you to be chassid. I'm telling you to chazid the maimer. I'm not interfering with your way. I'm your chaver. You learned in the Lubavitch Yeshiva. I don't know. It would be a nice thing to learn the maimer. I got a perspective. I don't know. It's not like you're farther. He says, Gershon, I don't plan on ever learning to see this. Because why not? That was like it's like an ideological misnah. Like, what do you get to see this? He says, you tell me. What happens when you learn to see this? I don't know. I really should answer. No, I wish I could answer that. Not much. He says, do you know every mimer you learn what the message of the mimer is? When you learn a mimer chassidus, the Rebbe is trying to convince you that the world around you is good, and the world around you is full of light, and the world around you is exactly what Eibishter wants it to be, and the world around you is this amazing world. He says, my world is dark, and my world is like fire. He says, I don't want to be told that the world is good. I can't learn a mimer chassidus. I said, wow, thank you so much. I never actually thought about that when I went to mimer chassidus. Thank you for sharing with me what happens when you learn a mimer chassidus. He says, all of a sudden, it gave me a gedai. This guy's taking it serious. He does want to learn a mimer because the mimer actually is telling him something. When he opens up the mimer chassidus, he's hearing that there's a different reality than the reality that he sees. And he's not yet ready to deal with that reality. That's his own personal thing. I was like, oh, I never actually thought about that when I learned the mimer chassidus. That the Rebbe, the Rabbi, and whatever it is trying to tell me there's a different world than what I never challenged myself to a new reality after learning a mimer or before learning a mimer. I told him, thank you very much for sharing with me a perspective on a mimer chassidus that I never learned. I learned a mimer, you learn a vart, you learn the head. I actually never challenged myself before to ask myself, is there a different world that I'm looking at now that I learned this mimer chassidus? When we say today is Rosh Hashanah l'chassidus, Rosh Hashanah l'daf, today we say it with just, it became another slogan. We all know that when the Rebbe Rashab wrote it, it caused an uproar in the Welt. The Litvische Kehilas, the Chassidim were Farbrengen with this line, And the Litvish Kehilas were going crazy. The Chassidim invented a new Rosh Hashanah. If you look at the beginning of it, I think it's Chaim. Which one of the Taisim has the mine? It says all the reactions of what happened in all the different cities when the line came out. They get this Kislev. It's Rosh Hashanah Chassidus. Which, by the way, I want to share. That it's brought down that they would always split the Shas on Yutas Kislev. However, in Tafrei Samach Gimel, Efes at night, because there was no time, they moved to the Chavdal Tevis. And it stayed by Chavdal Tevis until they never brought it back to Yutas Kislev. That's Rashai. What took place in Tafrei Samach Gimel? Like all of a sudden there was no time anymore. How long does it take to split shots? I think we did it in about 5 minutes. Well, you see my shots for about 30 seconds. So splitting shots could be like 4.5 minutes. I mean, what's FS Hapnai? Because there's no time to split shots. I mean, wow. I mean, we're very, very, very. We're so masuda with our time. We don't have time to split shots with the FS Hapnai. What happened for 100 years before? Till Tafrei Samach Gimel, then there was enough time. In Tafrei Samach Gimel, there was no more time to split shots. So I'm like, what happened? A Hergish. There were a lot of things going on actually in this Kislev, and that's good, but one of the inyanim, you could say, is that there's a big difference how you look about Yutas Kislev. If Yutas Kislev is out there, this Chag HaGeula, it doesn't demand so much avoida from us. You have, for example, I don't know if they're here. We have Shpola Zayd Einiklach here. Shpola Zayd Einiklach. What day do they get? Which day is it that they all get together? The day that the whole Shpola, I even asked, the Shpola Zayd Einiklach should get together. Rabbi Butman and the Mechutin for every minute. He arranges the Tzatzoyim, he arranges the Shpola, the big pulis of the beds of the year, Hakels. The Shpola Zayda, the Garzinskis, they all get together once a year. I don't know whatever day it is that they celebrate. It was a certain day that he was saying that it was a bridge of all nice right in the water. I don't know exactly the problem. Finished ankle from the Shpola Zayda. But, we resemble more the Goyim than the Shpola Zayda. So the point is that the Nekuda is that when you sit together for a Zayda's yard sign, whatever it is, or a Zayd's Chag HaGeula, what is the demand from you? Nothing. You say, well, we're proud to be Eineklach with this person. And we commemorate, hopefully our kids will think about it too. Again, like that. All of a sudden, the year before, this Kislev was changed to Rosh Hashanah. All of a sudden, the Avodah on Rosh Hashanah, the Avodah is on us. The next year, there was pushing no time. It was the first year that they're actually celebrating Yutas Kislev as Rosh Hashanah. But they started focusing on the avodah that they have to do on the day. So now there's no time. On Rosh Hashanah, you don't have time to split Shas. Anyone split Shas on Rosh Hashanah? There's a new avodah to do. The next year, Lubavitch was a different Yutas Kislev. It's no longer the Rebbe's Chag HaGeula. That doesn't demand a lot from us. Rosh Hashanah Chassidus demands. There's the first year they actually celebrated Yutas Kislev, the new their head, because they only found out the year before that it's Rosh Hashanah. Tafrei Samach Gimel, there was Efes Hapnai. There's no time. They're busy doing the avodah of Rosh Hashanah. But regardless of the head, there's the richtig of Nishnah. It doesn't matter. Rosh Hashanah Chassidus demands from us avodah. It demands that we think about the chidush that the Maimer gives to each and every one of us. We have to challenge ourselves to that reality. We have to challenge ourselves to that machshava. In other words, I would be jealous. I'm still jealous of my friend in that way. That a lot of us can learn something that we really don't hear about because it doesn't mean so much. To say no because I'm going to challenge myself to what's said in that mimer, that means that I actually am taking what it says there seriously. And we have to ask ourselves the question, what perspective is, we grow up with it, that we don't realize what we have. I recently, Lashkacha Prot, there's a whole Maisa. There's a young man that's a businessman in Crown Heights. But I approached him and I asked him to make a shutfis in the yeshiva. His brother is very close with the yeshiva. He was never there, but young man. And he said, so what do I get from this partnership? What's in it for me? I get what's in it for you. What's in it for me? So I tell him, first of all, you have the brachas of Yisachar Zul. It's an emissaire thing. It's brachas for you and your family. But to make it more real, if you agree to my shutfis, I'll make sure I'm going to learn with you a half hour a week. I'm personally going to do a half hour a week. Now, I have to remind Rabbi, who was that? You know what a half hour of my time was? I charged for when I left my house. The point is that it was masculine, but I'm one tonight. The tonight is that I don't learn with him. Says, I'll take this mabzul and say, Sefa, I don't want to do this learning thing. I learn enough, or I don't learn enough. Says, but I'll tell you what nicely it does. It says he's in the shipping business. His basic is shipping. What does that mean? His basic is shipping. He made a deal, I don't know how or what, with DHL, something, that he promised them X amount of customers, and he gets a better rate than you can get anywhere else. So he did the other way. He didn't have the customers. He got the rate and then found the customers. They thought he had the customers, then he gave the rate. He promised them, whatever, by Mamich, he got a deal. So he signs up businesses to his rate, which is very good. Don't ask me exactly the problem. That's pretty much one of his customers is a skvera chassid that lives in Muncie. But this younger man, simple younger man, a major, and they're doing business. The guy, you can actually look at his website. His website is called baketivity.com. What they do is, if you open up, it looks like there's a cat's not true, probably. They sell these activity baking kits, with the instructions, they give you all the ingredients, it's all kosher. At home, you're making activities, you get all the instructions and you get all the ingredients to make a cake, whatever it is, they're all pre-made for you. He sells these kits, that's the name of the thing. That's his company. The guy says, you're a managing a man? He says, why are we only in business with shipping? Maybe we should learn to see this. This guy said, I can't teach this guy. I don't know nothing. He said, the guy's been bothering him for months. He says, but now that you're offering me to learn, I'm going to transfer making, a shivuda to the Muslim here. You're going to learn with him. Instead of you learning with me half hour, this guy wants to learn, so you're going to learn with him. My shutfis is that you learn with this guy. Abort is abort. Is that right?
Is that even Moshe?
What?
Moshe has his name?
No. You have someone else to make a shutfis with?
Maybe.
So, which one? The Chassidish guy or the book? What?
Square.
His name is Elio. His name is Elio Schwartz, actually. He's actually hosting tonight a big discussion Farbrengen at his house. Series of things as we speak at his house. He's by now He's fully out.
Kislev, Judas Kislev.
Judas Kislev. He says, Oisyak Kislev. Oisyak. As we speak, Farbrengen, his household is the whole crew.
Sheer work.
Boy, works too well. So I call this guy up. The problem is that it's never less than an hour and a half. You know, there's no a half hour with this guy. The guy can't get enough. He learns. He says, Rabbi Avtzon, Gershon, but you don't know what this shir does for me. Go, he only wants to know that is my mother. It takes a few months, so we don't plan ahead. Like from Tishrei, we did a Hanukkah Maimer. Just do every kufa. The summer we did a Maimer, seeing Mishmati Badr for 3 weeks. But he says, you don't understand what you have. You just don't get what's going on over here. You learn it. It's the highlight of my week. You just can't wait to learn it, to learn. I'm sitting there. The Charusa starts. I have to make it 10:30 at night. This guy will go till 1 if on a Monday night. I can't do it. I have to make it earlier to make limits. This says maybe we'll learn twice a week. I said, oh, that comes with another partner. No, but the point is that now we speak all the time. Calls me up. He had a son that was born. He was Gimel Tisha this year. So the Gimel Tisha this year was Shabbos. If you look on the calendar. So Bris was next Shabbos. So this Chav Tisha. So he calls me up. He calls me Sunday. He had a baby. Mazel tov. I told him I'm actually in New York for Yom Tov. If the bris had been in the week, I would have come to Muncie to start up in the bris. So I didn't know the Yom Tov. What's bris? Come to the Bachnach, much more chashuv than the bris. I said, what? You don't know what a Bachnach is? I don't know what a Bachnach is. Bachnach, they come with their big day Shabbos and the whole suit. It's not stam. A Bachnach's a 3-course meal with menagnim. I said, but the Bachnach was Friday night. It's the bris of Shabbos. And we don't do Bachnach Friday night. I said, no. We don't give up on the meal. We do it Thursday night. We're not giving up on this Bachnach so quick. Thursday night was pouring rain. This Yom Tov, I came with a few chevra from Crown Heights. And it was Tisha on the bank. Because they have the sukkah with the thing on top, and it's open and it's closed with stragmach. So it was open for the Lubavitchers to eat. It was like a whole scene. If I begged there for 4 hours this Bachnach, and Baruch Hashem, a bunch of Shir and Chassidus came to the Bachnach. But the point is, sometimes the only way you understand what you have is when you hear it from someone that doesn't have it. And that's why I would like to suggest is not that everyone should learn Chassidus, because learning Chassidus is not enough. Everyone can teach Chassidus on their own level. Try to find at least one chavrusa or someone to learn Chassidus with. As much as you think you're teaching them, believe me, the excitement that you're going to get from their excitement will excite you once again to learn Chassidus. Maybe everyone here is so excited about it. I'm sorry if I'm talking to the wrong person. But I'm telling you, this guy's excitement has like rubbed off on me. Like, wow, he's like, it's unbelievable. Like the words he describes about the Rebbe's Maimer, I wish I heard from my mashpiyim, like when they're introducing the Rebbe's Maimer, what it does. Nocha Maimer, look it. This guy's like, this is life changing. This is the way he talks about the ice of the Maimer. Like, how come I don't hear our own mashpiyim speaking about a Maimer this way? I don't blame them because we all grew up with it. The ice. And when we learn with other people, the biggest beneficiary is ourselves. The Eibishter, I want to tell you a story, which I had a moidedige mice with this mice. The Rebbe knows exactly where everyone is supposed to be. Now, you sometimes wonder how people end up in which place. Everyone asks me all the time, who am I related to in Cincinnati? I say, why do you ask me that? So what else would you come to Cincinnati? Like, who are you related to that brought you to this crazy city? Like, everyone must be related to. I say, no. The Rebbe says this. But, we say it. And yeah, we all believe that everything's a shkacha pratis. But sometimes you don't derhead until you like a real, sometimes it's like a real derhead. When I was in Toronto as a bocher, I forget if I was a bocher or was a shliach. One day, in the middle of a Kislev, which Kislev, you don't need an excuse to have it for Farbrengen. It could be Monday night, Tuesday night, any night. Vav, Zayin, Hey, or Dal, whatever it is. As they say, the day that the Rebbe's name was, or what they thought it was, or any day in between, it's always a good day to have a Farbrengen. And showed up to Zal like 10:30 at night. The shliach to Argentina, he was Yossi Turk. The shliach in Cordoba, I don't know the exact name of the city. A city in Argentina. Now, I always thought the Turk family happens to live across the street from my parents, in Crown Street. Shoich and Label Turk lives literally across the street from my parents. As a kid, I remember they were older family. I remember the Kalas, the Turk, a bunch of girls. One was married to Adel and Bola, a whole bunch. I remember the Kalas coming down the stairs. That was like the highlight. We were little kids. We didn't go to weddings. The Turk girls would go to the chasa. That was like a simcha on the block. All the kids would come watch the Kala come down the stairs. I always thought that he was married to a girl from Argentina. That was because he has a son, a little younger than me. His name is Shmuel Turk. He always told me he has an older brother, Yossi. I always thought he was married to a girl from Argentina. That's why he's there. Like one day I found out that he's married to Rabbi Shvei's daughter. Like, oh. From Crown Heights. Oh, I didn't realize that. What's he doing in Argentina? Cordoba, El Bach in Argentina. Whatever, I never thought about it. What's the guy doing in Argentina? So he lands in the Zal. Something he ends up in Toronto and he ends up in Yeshiva. So when a shliach ends up in Yeshiva from Argentina, but then you don't need an excuse. So pull out from the lockers. There's always an emergency stash for Farbrengen. And he says, I want to tell you the story how I ended up in Argentina. There's a melamais. He says, me and my wife, we're both from Crown Heights. And after being a year in Koilel, I wanted to go on shlichus. So, whatever the Avtzon were those days for Koilel in the light, he had a few Avtzons. And before he gave his settle to the Rebbe, a chaver of his in Koilel said, you should know, there is a city in Argentina. But it's probably a waste for you to put it on your list. It's at state time. One is you and your wife both don't speak Spanish, they don't speak over there. Secondly, a bunch of Spanish people speaking in the light have asked the Rebbe to go to the city. And the Rebbe said no. So if people that speak Spanish, the Rebbe says no. People that don't speak Spanish, sure the Rebbe says no. So he said somehow, I don't know if his mashpia told him or someone convinced him that to the Rebbe you have to write every Avtzon that you want. That was someone convinced him. Every Avtzon, you can't just leave. You can't decide. So he has his list. On the bottom of this list is Cordoba, Argentina. The next day the answer comes out. Circle Cordoba, Argentina. So the Koilel was going crazy. All the Spanish people were there. The Spanish people, the Rebbe says, no, this American kid doesn't speak a word. His wife doesn't speak a word. They're going to Argentina. Gave verstehen das. I understand why this guy, yeah, this guy, no. Thanks for some. There's about a few weeks before he's going, and again, he's not just going. going to the other side of the world, you're not just going, you're going to, I think it's even like far from Buenos Aires. It's not even like, it's a trip, a real trip. And his father gets a letter in the mail. His father, if you know his father's story, the Turk, which famous shaykhit, his parents are not from, his grandparents took care of him. They sent him to Yeshiva in Montreal, a whole parsha. It was like not a simple parsha. And then his father got all upset at the Rebbe, and he said, "How my son went to Yeshiva, how's he going to support himself?" So the Rebbe said he should ask them, whatever they decide he should do, that's what he'll support himself. Then all of a sudden he should become a shaykhit. Then he was sent to Manchester. I don't know. There's a long story there with this whole family. I don't know. He was in like a foster, not a foster home. These schools like this boarding school for, I don't know the program. It wasn't your regular upbringing. Campus was a mice. You know the story? You heard of it? The whole mice was just with his upbringing, how he ends up in Montreal. The kid's there. There's a letter in the mail. The letter in the mail is that there's a family reunion, or the Turk family reunion. All these cousins, all these things. They're invited him to come. I don't know, the 50th yard side of some, whatever the reunion is. Now I remember, because I used to see it as a kid. He used to be away from Monday. I see him coming flying out of the taxi on Friday. He'd be away on the shaykhit. He'd be away a whole week. So he tells his son, I can't go. But it's important they should see a frum relative, right? So you're going to Argentina, go to, you represent me by the reunion. You're not going to eat anything, it's not going to be kosher. You go. You should represent the frum family. His wife is a wolf family. Chicago eats wolf. Davidson Turk is a wolf. Fine. So that's why you're talking about these long beards. Wolf beards. A kid said, the son, Yossi Turk, he goes to this family reunion, and like his father said, he's like the only from cousin, he's second or none. Lubavitch, if they're your first cousin, you don't know who they are. Second and third cousins, it's like, what does that even mean? But when you have only one first cousin and 3 second cousins, so when you're a third cousin, you're showing up a yufis, right? It's like, yeah, you're our third cousin. It's a big, the Friday bell, the third cousin still means something. In Lubavitch, if you're your brother, hopefully you still talk. But more than that, it's like, don't push it. But they come, and so I guess everyone's going around the table. Where do you live? Where are you going? His turn comes. He says, my name is Yossi Turk. I grew up in Grand Heights. I played with your son. And as a matter of fact, in a couple of weeks, I'm moving to Argentina with my wife. So we said, oh, we're in Argentina. We're going to Cordoba. So one of the people, Cordoba, we have cousins in Cordoba. When you go there, look up this family. Give the name, the number. We have cousins in Cordoba. He comes to Cordoba. Calls his cousin first. They call their cousin first. If they're coming. They come there. The cousin introduces them to the whole Kehila. The cousins today became from, I don't know if you know, they're in Montreal. There's a doctor. His name is Dr. Kren. He lives in Montreal. His wife grew up in Cordoba. She's the daughter, she's the second cousin of Bessie. That's the family. They were in the Yiddish guy, and got the whole city. A few years into the Shviras, the cousin tells him like this. He says, I don't think you understand the godless of the Rebbe. What do you mean? So you're the chassid. Says our community, the Sfada Shekehila, the club, they're very closed. They don't let outsiders in. You know the Syrian community, the Sfada Shekehilas. They're very protective about their kehilas. They don't allow. He says any other Chabad rabbi that would come to this city would not be able to get through any door. It would be closed to them. There was no one, whatever language they would speak, they would never be able to infiltrate this community. They would have been a lock. because you were the cousin of the president of the kingdom, and he invited you in, so that opened the doors to the whole kingdom. Says, I'm telling you, how did you ever know that your cousin lived in Cordova? That only you're the only person in the whole world of Lubavitch that could have been the Shliach. That is nice. Getting frustrated. We don't have those. Now sometimes we are zoichet to their hair. Like, wow, okay, I get it. That could be I'm the only one. Like, he literally, probably the only Lubavitcher chassid in the entire world that was shaykh to be in that city. Without his speaking, without knowing it, there would be nobody else. There would be locked at the front gate. I don't mean, they would never be able to infiltrate. It's locked. Now, this is not Gavaldik and Maisa in its own right. But the Maisa we have to look at for each and every one of us. If we're here, wherever we are, it's because we have to be here. Because only we can do what we need to do here. For some reason, each and every one of us are supposed to be exactly where we're supposed to be. Everyone has their tafkid. Everyone has their official reason for being here. Yeah, you go around the table. I'm here on business. I'm here on teaching. I'm here on the spaceship. I don't know what I'm here for. Everyone will tell you their own reason for their being here. But there's no shayla. We're here because the Rebbe knows that this is the only place that there's someone here that you're the only person that can reach. If that would not be the case, we wouldn't be here. If there's someone else that can reach the yid that I am supposed to reach, then we wouldn't need you here. If we're here, in Rabbi Turk's case, it was an extreme case. He's the only one in the whole world. Like, it's very violent that he's the only one that could have done it. But in our case, we have to ask ourselves, like that chassid, we have to stop thinking about the Eibishter and start thinking about ourselves. Not chas v'shalom the Eibishter. Stop relying on what the Eibishter will do and start asking ourselves, what can we do? If we're here, how can we make a difference? Which yid can we reach, whether it's through our business, whether it's through whatever, our neighbor, I don't know what it is. Everyone has. There's no person that doesn't have a circle of influence. It's not shy. If you're a human being and you have any social life, what do you do? You have some circle of influence. And we have to take a more active role. Rosh Hashanah L'Chassidus is a Nesinas Koyach. It's a power surge. What we're going to do with it is, that's up to us. The Rabbeim are giving it to us. The Rabbeim are giving us a boost tonight, like it's unbelievable. Hashanah L'Chassidus. It's not Yom HaGula. Hashanah L'Chassidus. I want to take it further. What day was it on the calendar that the Rebbe introduced the line, Yemois HaMashiach Shebehem Nimtzoi Ma'ashav? Yemois HaMashiach that we are in. What was the one day that it chose to be Magia and say, introduce that to the world? Was Teskes, the Tavshin days. There was Magia. Yemois HaMashiach Shebehem Nimtzoi Ma'ashav. These are great revelations that are here for each and every one of us. The shaila is if we're ready to do something about it. If we truly believe that there's someone here that we're the only ones that can reach. Now, reaching is very, very, very different for each person. This person speaks. This person writes. This person tweets. This person builds. Influence is not, the beauty of influence is that it's not one dimensional. Someone's going to say, I'm not a speaker. Are you a writer? Are you a singer? Are you a graphic person? Everyone has a koyach. Tonight we all have to commit ourselves to the movement. Kol echad lefi yomim. You know, we all have talents. We all have it. We all have ways to give. Never think that there's nothing for me to do. If there's nothing for you to do, you wouldn't be here. And we don't need to. There's an expression, be yourself, everyone else is taken. Not your ego, but what am I doing? Where am I in the Rebbe's mission? Where am I in the shlichus of Yutzas Kislev? What am I doing? And if I'm already doing something, what more can I do? And we have the chap opportunity. I want to tell you a ma'aser, funny ma'aser. In Cincinnati, they're celebrating now 200 years since the Kehillah started. That's one of the oldest Jewish communities outside the big kids. 200 years. And there is the oldest Jewish weekly newspaper in English that's coming out consecutively for like 100 years. I don't know. Still comes out. You can Google it. It's called the American Israel. It's the oldest Jewish weekly, English Jewish weekly in America. I don't know why it still comes out, but it still comes out. And it's basically, I say, the readership I think is like 90 and up. Like for the old people, they can't go to Shabbos without being minded sent to Israel. That's every old man or woman in Cincinnati, 60 and up, cover to cover. Mainly it's news that they couldn't get from the internet because they can't type it. But, that's this newspaper that comes out and just, because if you're Jewish, you get the Israel. That's like what you do. You get a bris, and you just have a subscription to the Israel. That's what you do if you're Jewish in Cincinnati. And happens to be that a couple of years ago, like 15 years ago, the newspaper was bought by a frum person, very modern Orthodox. It doesn't mean the newspaper changed its content and its thing. It happens to be a frum owner. The guy is really calm and he's very modern Orthodox and he doesn't like Chabad, the full, but he has the sanctimony. I always laugh at him. I don't know where it comes from because he's not shy, not shy. Doesn't work. He goes to the mikveh Shabbos morning. Shabbos in the free, goes to the mikveh. So I've been for years. Like I'll see him Shabbos morning. But usually there's other people there. And I tell him with Shabbos, there's no major conversation. It's a mikveh. I don't know, it's a student neighborhood. But probably, the conversation usually stops when he comes in. And it goes on. One Shabbos morning, and it's just me and him. Usually it's a bocher or somebody. It's just me and him. And he looks at me, and he says, Rabbi, you look awfully disturbed this morning. You're not your usual self. And I haven't really spoken to this guy. And I don't know why. They wish to help me. I was getting dressed. I look at him. His name is Ted. I say, Ted, you want to know why I'm sad? He says, because you don't give me a column in your newspaper. He looks at me and says, okay, you have it. For the past 4 years, every month, the first newspaper of the month, I have a column. More than that. It goes out to thousands of people. I get tremendous feedback. From this written column. What's the point of the story? The point is that we all have talents. The key is to use the opportunities. I could have just said nothing, and it would stop. If we're in the mindset of how we're going to have influence, he asked the question, they should have benched me, I would have responded to that. I don't know why he even said that. I want to answer. It's Gavarim. And it goes out to hundreds and thousands of people. Hundreds and thousands. If you ask him, it's hundreds of thousands. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure like which world he lives in. But like by him, it's like the most read newspaper in America. Tells me I got 1 million hits a month on my website. I said, so someone hitting you hard on the head, you're not going to get 1 million hits a month on the American Israelite website. Nobody knows about it, except for you, unless you're just doing this all day. I'm telling you, Rabbi, I get it. Now we became closer, whatever, obviously. Beginning, when I would write, if I mentioned it up in the article, he would take it out. Now, everyone else can write, they can quote the Galach if they want. That goes in. Of a Babbacher, I don't understand. Like, you have a picture of me with my hand in my jacket. There's no one reading it that's thinking that it's not a from Jew. You actually call the page the Orthodox scholar. So, like, what are you so worried about? Like, you're not like, whoever's reading it, if people don't want to read it, they'll skip the whole article. There's no one that's reading it's going to say, oh, no, it's like a whole. And for the Kufa, I was gonna, my Kano said to stop writing. I was like, my Mashpia said to continue. By now, he already, what's it there? Trying to look for you're already, because now he doesn't look at, I think the column is doing him a bigger favor than he was doing. But the point is, it's like the only original content. But the point is that we have to use the moments, use the opportunities. We have to have the mindset of Avtzon and Mayodas Chutzah. And just live life. I'm telling you, if we live life of Avtzon Hayahabus, Avtzon and Mayodas, like a businessman lives life of business, where every person he meets is another opportunity to do a business deal. We be very, very successful in our Avtzon. I hang out with businessmen. By them, any guy on the train, any guy on the plane, any guy anywhere is just another business opportunity. That's the way they look at it. They have their elevator pitch. They're ready to go. They're ready to do business with anyone, anytime, anywhere. There's nobody that's off limits for business. When it comes to Yiddish guy, now, I'm not saying everyone's the loudest person. Everyone has different, like, that's the bartender. We somehow think that spreading Yiddishkeit means that I'm a loud, active, roaring person. And if I'm not that, so it's not for me. No. You're a talented person. Everyone has talents. Whatever that is that's good for you, do it. Just do it. Be yourself. Do what talent you have and just make it work. Because there's people out there that only you can reach. L'chaim, l'chaim. This niggin, it's called the Avinu Malkeinu Ha'aruch. Why is it called Avinu Malkeinu Ha'aruch? Because it starts off very similar to the Avinu Malkeinu that we all sing on the Seresh Metshuva, etc. But it veers off. But I like this niggin a lot. I'll indulge you a little bit. But I think it's a niggin that if we know it, we should sing it.
There's a Avtzon, since it's Shnasakel, today it's a Shana of Sidis, the next Rosh Hashanah, for their Shvi Yitzvak, to have a community gathering going together to the Rebbe. So you have to arrange it in some way. With the Pashtos renting a bus, something like that, and the whole Kehillah together should Farbrengen the whole way to New York, Farbrengen there, and Farbrengen back. So just throwing it out there, there's a few months to figure it out. But since it's a Farbrengen,
I'm gone over 2 months.
Kislev. So anybody has ideas or wants to help arrange?
No?
No, we need a full size. We want everyone. Everyone, Kulam Biachad. Anyway, get your heads working. Exactly. Why should you? We still didn't make a scene on the
let us think about it. Good idea.
In the sale, one of the Litvish Gedolim, I'm not sure if it's Chaim Brisker or it's Chaim, someone, one of these Litvish Gedolim, once saw a fruits of Tmimim. And he was very, very impressed with their Yerushalayim, the Zehirus in Kalach V'Chamura. And he came to the Rebbe Rashab and he asked, what's the secret of the Tamim? The Rebbe Rashab said, they learn in Chassidus. So he said, so I'll try to teach my Talmid in Chassidus. And they say that the Friedrich Rebbe saw that the Rebbe Rashab made like a smirk or something. It was some with the face, some movement. He didn't respond. Later on, the Friedrich Rebbe asked the Rebbe Rashab, what was the reaction to the comment? What was that? No, it's up in Yiddish. Krum at the nose. What was that? What was that reaction about? So he said, Yemen made as me can happen Chassidus on a Rebbe. Chassidus works because it's the Rebbe's Chassidus. You can't have Chassidus without a Rebbe. And the same thing is, you can't have Rosh Hashanah Chassidus without talking about the Rebbe. Chassidus on a Rebbe is Mishkin Yomtiv. Chassidus is not just a study that once the author says what he says, puts it out there, it's in the public. Chassidus is oil when we speak about the Rebbe, we understand that Chassidus is Aliki, Chassidus is Alikos, and Chassidus comes from the Rebbe. The Sefarad Maisa is a Maisa that I read recently. It's probably everybody knows it, but to me it was this Chadish story. And it was a very, very eye-opening story for me. The story took place in the year Tov Kuf Tzadik Aleph. How do I know? How do I remember? Because last year, Tov Shin Pei Beis was Kuf Tzadik Aleph Shana from when the story happened. That was the remez in my head. Because it was Kuf Tzadik Aleph. So this story took place in the year Tov Kuf Tzadik Aleph. What did it say? Tov Kuf Tzadik Aleph is probably 1831. Shavuos, the story actually took place Shabbos Parshas Baloischa Tov Kuf Tzadik Aleph. That's this. What's the story? The middle of Rebbe back then. When the Alter Rebbe passed away, when the Alter Rebbe was nostalgic and Chof Daled Tevis, talked about in Gimel, there were two things that were not so clear to Chassidim. First of all, it was not kosher to them that Chassidus should go from father to son. When the Baal Shem Tov, it went to the Magi, who wasn't the son of the Baal Shem Tov. The Magi went, but it didn't stay by him. Very good that you would know that. It didn't start it out. It's a proof that it doesn't go to the son because the Baal Shem Tov took it away from his son. When the Magi was nostalgic and because Kislev, he wanted to appoint his son to Abraham, and it did not go to him. So when the Alter Rebbe was nostalgic, why should it go to the middle of it? Why should it go from the son? When Moshe Rabbeinu went to Yeshua, Nasios doesn't go from father to son. They didn't know yet that Nasiei Chabad are Hamyuchosim LeDavid Ben Yishai, that it's Malchus. Very good, very good. But they weren't aware. So a lot of them went to the Baris Rashel. Now today, a lot of people are shocked. Why did they go to the Mitzvah Rebbe? When you understand that they didn't even think that everyone thought it should go to the Talmud like it always did, it makes a lot of sense. The Pella is that Chassidin Chap that in this case it should be different. It wasn't so Bashet. From the Groise Chassidim of the Alter Rebbe that we all read about and learn about, and we have in the Hayom Yom about, like for example, Moshe related, they went to the Baron Special. It wasn't so Bashet. The Pinchas Reizes had to fight with the Chassidim to be Mekabel the Siyas of the Middle Rebbe. So first of all, a lot of Chassidim went away from Mitzvah. The noise was that a lot of Chassidim, Bechlal, didn't find a new Rebbe. Now the Rebbe was their Rebbe for life. They gave their Yechida to the Alter Rebbe, and that was it. After the Middle Rebbe was installed in Neches, so therefore, even a lot of Chassidim, even more the Chassidim of the Middle Rebbe, didn't make it to the Tzemach Tzedek. It was like another symptom at the beginning. One of those Chassidim that stayed with the Alter Rebbe and was not Mekabel the Siyas of the Middle Rebbe or the Tzemach Tzedek, but was very respectful, was the famous Chassid of Nehemiah of Dubrovnik. He wrote the Divrei Nehemiah. I think he was even related to the Alter Rebbe, right? Nephew? Somebody, he was definitely related to the Alter Rebbe. And he was a big poisik, a big, very, very, very holy Yid. But he felt that his Rebbe was the Alter Rebbe, and that was it. However, Chassidim were smarter than they are today. Today, we were very good at telling everyone who's not the kusher, you can't listen to them, you don't. Those days, they understood that in Nehemiah's lack of hiskashrus came from a Nazistic thing, that he was mekusher and shechida to the Alter Rebbe. So, if you look on the map, a lot of the way to Lubavitch for a lot of cities came from when goes through Dubrovnik. That's just the way we look where the cities are. So all the Chassidim, the Groise Chassidim, on their way to Lubavitch would stop by his house, the Farbrengen. On the way back, they would stop in his house, the Farbrengen. He wanted to hear everything what the Tzemach Tzedek said, but more as an outsider. That was his. The Talmud Tzadik Aleph is very, very famous shvuas, because the Groise Chassidim, Rabbi Zekomler, Hillel Paritch, all these Groise Chassidim, they came to the Tzemach Tzedek, and Parshas Nosoi, they stayed from till after Nosoi, which was right after Shavuos. Sunday at Parshas Baloischa, they headed out. Their first stop was in Nehemiah of Dubrovnik. When they got to his house, as the Frierdiker Rebbe, they saw that he was be'i hisyashvus. He was like going back and forth. He was not very. So one of the Chassidim asked him, "What's going on? Why are you so uneasy? What's going on?" So he told them, great sich geht zum Rebbe. They thought he meant he's going to Hadich. Going to the Alter Rebbe, great sich geht, going to trip to Hadich. He says, no, he's going to Lubavitch, in Tzemach Tzedek, which was a huge thing, because everybody knew that he was a big holdout. That he could have been the Tzemach Tzedek Zaydi. Now, he's not going to be a chazan with Tzemach Tzedek. The fact that he said that he's going to the Tzemach Tzedek was a huge thing. So they asked him why. What was the change? Why? What made you come around? So he said, last night, the Rebbe came to him in a dream, and he told him, Nehemiah, vi line on Rebbe. How long can you live without a Rebbe? So he asked the Alter Rebbe, so then who? You're not here, so who? So the Alter Rebbe, forget the Lashon. The Alter Rebbe's Lashon basically was Menachem Zeh Nachameinu, something along those lines. Menachem Zeh Nachameinu, which you understood was referring to the Tzemach Tzedek. So the Chassidim heard that he's going to the Tzemach Tzedek, so they turned around. And Parshas Baloischa, Mitamo, the Chassidim and Lubavitch were shocked. They're back again. All the grace of Chassidim with them Nechemia. And in Lubavitch history, it became known as Shabbos Keser Elul. The moment that Nechemia was Mekabel, the Nesias of the Tzemach Tzedek, that was cemented in the Nesias of the Tzemach Tzedek. That made it that it was official. Even the old Chassidim of the Alter Rebbe were Mekabel. That was like a new stage in the Nesias of the Tzemach Tzedek. Parshas Baloischa Tovkuf Tzaddik Aleph. So Shabbos Keser Elul. What's the Nekud of the Maisa? The Nekud of the Maisa is as we lying on our Rebbe, we lying him in Farbrengen about Chassidus without talking about the Rebbe. And I'm not just talking about saying stories of the Rebbe by Yom Mahim. We have to deher Rosh Hashanah, if it's truly Rosh Hashanah l'Chassidus, so then we have to talk about the Rebbe by Yom Mahim Bizman Hazeh. We have to talk about, for Chassidus to be poil Bizman Hazeh, we need to have a Rebbe Bizman Hazeh. For Chassidus to be Levidik, we need a Levidik Rebbe. So I want to share with you a story that I just recently experienced. It's a Peladik Amaisa. I'm telling you, every part of the story is 100% true. 100% true. And it's one of these stories that, if you don't experience it yourself, it's hard to say over, it's hard to believe. But I want to tell you this nice. The Rebbe by Yom Mahim is Manazir. From a Yidden, location is very important. People which are not yet from, they can live 20 miles from a shul. They don't understand why you have to live near a shul. They'll drive 15 minutes, 20 minutes. In Cincinnati, there's no real Yidden that live near the conservative shul or the reformed shul. They live miles away, but what does it matter? Just drive to shul. You don't go to school. The location is not so important. For Fruma Olam, location is extremely important, right? They have to be walking distance. The whole Kehila is based around the walking distance to the shul. It's just the way the Fruma Kehila works. So as a Fruma Yid, you're very limited where and how you can situate yourself. For Yeshiva, location is even more important. You can't have like Bachram dormitories 10 minutes away, 20 minutes away. I mean, you could, but it just becomes that you're running a citywide operation. It becomes like impossible to track and to do. So, dormitories for yeshivas are very, very, very difficult. So last year, a couple of years ago, where yeshiva is, Lukovsky was there. The building of the yeshiva, like a year ago, a couple years ago, there's an apartment house with 4 apartments right next door to the yeshiva. It went for sale, which should have been a no-brainer. But when you're struggling to keep the electric on, you can't even think about buying properties. So I let it be sold. It was bought by a youth. But last summer, Chafov time, it went up for sale again. And I knew that I had to buy it. Right next to yeshiva. You can't get better. Like yeshiva bachrim, neighbors in yeshiva bachrim is not always a good thing. They don't get along. So you could be the neighbor, the yeshiva. If you're the neighbor, it's okay. not gonna, neighbors, they master on you and they get upset, the Bachrim screaming late at night, the Farbrengen and laundry coming out the window, whatever, as many rules that you can make, Bachrim are gonna be Bachrim and Mashiach flags pop up on your door. I don't know what's going on. The point is that it came up when they saw I was interested, the Yid who was supposed to be helping me, instead of lowering the price, put the price up, because all of a sudden, the kids there, and he put up the price, but whatever it was, I still knew I had to get it. We made a campaign, I spoke to a bunch of parents. Nice and short, we got a contract on it, we raised the money, and we were gonna buy it. And then it came up that there were violations on the property. I asked them, there were violations? No. And it came the day of the closing, you're not legally allowed to close without disclosing the violations, also there were violations. I pushed up another 4 or 5 months. The kids on this property, so we slept, and we bought it. The day we bought it, we were just depleted our entire account. Everything went to this property. Okay, but at least we have it. The next day, I'm walking outside the yeshiva, I'm just observing my new property. Watching. And I see that next door there's a for rent sign. It's a stop. I don't know why. I was just curious to find out what rent's going for. Now that I own this property, we're not renting it out. I was curious, what type of are rents for such an apartment on this block? Like, if I was going to rent it out, what is the? So it says call this number. Call the number. This guy, his name is Mark. I say, Mark, I'll be honest with you. I'm not renting, and I'm just curious. I'm your neighbor, wondering what are rents going for on this block. What's the value of the apartments? So he tells me this number, that number. We start schmoozing, and he says, "When did you buy this property?" I said, "We just finally closed on it." Well, he says, "You should know that I'm not just in charge of the renting. I own the next 2 properties. And you know what? If you want them, you can buy them now." I said, "How long do I have to decide?" There's no for sale sign. If you actually want it for the school, you can buy them. So you let me know about tomorrow. If you let me know by tomorrow that you're ready to get the contract, you can have them. I was like, wow. I didn't have money for one. I don't for sure have money for 2, and I can't do another campaign. I just spoke anyone that is going to give me any money already gave me money for this property. And it's like the next day. It's like, okay, I think he can't even have the chutzpah to make another phone call. On the other hand, I don't know. Maybe he was giving me a matana. Like, how do you know? How do you know what to do? Like, imagine having 3 properties right next to each other. Like, that could be amazing, but maybe it's too crazy. Like, how do you know what to do? You have 1 day to decide. Like, I don't know what to do. So I wrote a letter to the Rebbe. I spoke to my dad, like crazy, of course. I wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and the letter that came back in the Gift Kodesh was written to the Mashpia Chaim Sholbrook from Eretz. He had a yeshiva in Rishon LeZion. It seems from the letters I've read afterwards that there was the yeshiva in the Pardes, and like the difficult bachrim they sent to Rishon LeZion. It was like he had a real Schweizer Arabic in himself. The bachrim were difficult, the finances were difficult, and he keeps on basically asking the Rebbe to lay off of his achrayus in this yeshiva. It's too much. But basically, in this letter, he writes to the Rebbe that the chayvus reached Avtzon, and unless there's a nest, he's not going to be able to continue the yeshiva. So the letter comes back. The Rebbe says, "You write to me about the tzoros that you're having, but I'm very upset at you Because you didn't write to me the good news, but basically a few months before they made Hanachas Eben Atina for the expansion of the yeshiva. It says the good news that you're expanding the yeshiva, you left out. It says a good friend should share good news. And wouldn't you want to make me happy? Let me know that you're expanding the yeshiva. Then there says this that you write, you see this in English yourself. This that you write, that without a nest, you're not going to be able to do it. It says, by me, I'm Misupukani, if that's true. I think you don't need a nest. I think I'll be derech hateva, you should be able to get out of your tzodis with the right Mesira, Nesina, you don't need a nest to get out of your tzodis. You know, he's right that Rabbi needs a nest. Rabbi writes, you don't need a nest, it's all, I'll peak teva, it's all fine. I'm looking at this letter. So on one hand, that was clearly asking for the expansion of the issue. He wants good news about the expansion. And on the other hand, they were saying that I'll peak derech, you don't even need a nest, because I'll peak derech hateva, you should be able to buy buildings. I'll peak derech hateva, I have no money, zero. Not like zero. I just bought a building yesterday. All my money is in that building, and there's no one I can possibly call to two more buildings. It's impossible. There's no one. I maxed out all my favors and all my loans and all. There's no one I can call for these two buildings. So I don't know. But clearly, I have 24 hours to go into a contract. Go into a contract, I still get 30 or 60 days. But you don't want to break a contract. You don't want to make the guy. No. But the Rebbe's answer is to expand. It's like the next day I go to the contract on 2 properties without $1. Out of $1. Like zero.
Sign the contract.
Signed the contract. Told them that the earnest money is going to come soon. 2 buildings on contract out of $1. The Rebbe says you don't need a nest. I'll be there at Chateva. Makes no sense. So I'm sitting there with my vad, and I say, the Rebbe's vector, they happen if you believe it. The Rebbe responds the way you reflect as I enter. The Rebbe say, I don't need a nest. Does anyone here think I'll be teva? I can get these properties in 30 days? I have 30 days to close, or 60 days. Is there anyone around this table that thinks that we can get 2 more properties after maxing out all our donors for 1, that we can get 2 more for nothing? Like 2 more, not like,
If you're getting in critical yeshiva somewhere, and
not in the middle of the year,
No kid, one's no kid.
because the parents pay a lot of money.
maybe.
So, all of a sudden, one of the people on my van looks at me. We're on the Zoom phone call. And he says, Gershon, what about this money? What about this money? What's the money he's talking about? Basically, for those that are a little bit in the world of shlichus, ASEC, or any business, are familiar with these PPP loans that were out. So they had this PPP 1, then a few months later they gave out this PPP 2. You had to show that you lost money in a certain quarter. Yeah, I know they're familiar with these loans that came out. Hope everyone here didn't qualify because you made so much money. But the point is that the first time this loan came out, they said it could be audited from the government, it's not budget. So I decided instead of going do it mamish, like buy the book, open up a separate bank account, a separate thing. Mamish to do it without it, with all the I's and the T's. I went to my bank, the full thing, got it legal, every check, everything documented. In case there's an audit, it's all clear. So this, we got the money, went into a certain bank account that was open just for that. Everything was separate, like a separate, the quick book, whatever, everything just on this account that it should be. You know,
Which account for buying the building?
no. This PPP loan. Yeah, so it should be clear. Now, In the meantime, I didn't know this the first time. I have a shwager, married my sister, that he got into this PPP business. So I said, if I'm gonna give this, whoever's gonna do it gets some type of percentage. Why shouldn't it be my shwager? Even though it's usually better, you don't use factor, but if he's gonna, who's the one that's gonna put in the paperwork? I don't care if he gets it 2% or Bianca gets it, or some guy in the bank. Why should Huntington Bank get it? So they announced the government is gonna be, that's gonna open up on this date, prepare your things, show that you're missing, you lost money on a certain quarter, whatever. Had all the documents all prepared. You have to also have, they told you that if you got it before, so you have to, or basically you have to show which account you, how much you got, which account it went to. So that is how you do it, very, very simple. Check it all off. That the money for the second round should go exactly to the same bank account as the first round. This way it's clear, there's no same account, everything. I give it to my brother the first day it opens. He files it for me. And 2 days later, he gets like a message from the firm, the bank, whatever, approved. Your money should be coming in 2 days, 48 hours. Okay. Geht doch 48 Stunden. I think to myself, okay, maybe it takes more time. Another 40 hours, I'm not so desperate. Geht doch nach 48 Stunden. No money. Nach 48 Stunden. After a week, I call him up. He said, I don't get it. Looks on his system. It says approved. There's no cancellation of the approved. The system says approved, but I have no money in the account. So he calls his senior manager, The kids said they get back a message that our bank rejected the funds. Something wrong with the account. He said it's not shy, it's account. It's not a new account, it's the same account that got money last time. It's like the same program. Refile. They called my bank. Is it true that we got the money last time? Yeah, it's confirmed, the same account, voided checks, everything that you had to send them. The kids at Gate of Nachavach rejected. By the time we finished dealing with it, we lost the window. Whatever it was, the window that the program was open. So here we were left without the money. And I felt really, really bad. Let's say it was like $50,000. I felt bad, the government's giving it. We actually had it wasn't Backlon, it's not like we came late at all. Came on time. Come on, what are you seeing? Didn't explain it. Like, what's going on over here? Like, what? Well, why not us? We did it right. Maybe you didn't do it right. I was very upset. What can I do? That was a bad move. Upset. It's not right. Try to do things time. Finally being the Sudan, and everything's going in garbage. And I started thinking to myself, why did I give it to my brother-in-law? I should have given it to the other bank that I went to the first time. I had. But then you say, well, the guy did it, everyone else got approved, all my other siblings got approved. Why me no? It's like it wasn't his fault. Everyone else that he did, that went through. Okay. Question. This one question. That one. Why me? Why me? Why me? Now these why me's. Garbage. There's no answer. Grow up. A few weeks after all this crisis, I get an email. Good news for Ohio schools. The government has approved a new program. You can Google it. It's called EANS, EAMS program. EANS. I forgot what it stands for something, obviously. I have no idea what it is. Every of these government things, they all stand for something. But it's called EANS. Right. That's it.
What?
All those names stand for something, stand for something.
Stands for something. Say that educational something. All schools can apply. Disclaimer about it. If any school got the PPP funds, second round, you can get this program. which basically canceled out even more schools. Like, you show up a month later after everyone applied. Like, what are you? Who are you setting out the program for? A bunch of Madwanim? So first, the government said on the thing, if you apply for the PPP funds, you can't get this program. So I wrote to them, to the Higher Department of Education, I said, no, this can't be true. I can't, because you applied or because you didn't get the money? Like, there wasn't, who applied and didn't get the money? I said, me, I applied, but I didn't get the money. I want to know, can I qualify? Is the whole Hakira? No, so they clarified. Another email, if you didn't get, you could apply, but you could get rejected. If you didn't, if you can prove the funds didn't get to your account, you get the EANS fund. I was thinking to myself, okay, if I lost the 50, maybe they'll give another 20. Good. This is months before us. So, fine, I apply. I get back an email a few weeks later. Your school's approved. The amounts will be coming out in a week or so. I didn't even think about it. I get it back maybe 2 months later, 2 weeks later. Your school's approved, $145,000. But this is not even a loan. You don't have to prove papers. Well, it reimburses any COVID expense you had since the beginning. You can show, I said, like what? If you can show that you used the disposable cups, your dining room, your school could have technically used China. But you use disposable because it's healthy. They'll pay you back all your bills, all your cups, your plates, your spoons, your knife, your tablecloths. If you want to buy new chairs and new tables for the anything, it's all covered. It's all reimbursable expense. They give you cash. If you show them receipts, you get money back. Presumably, no. The yeshiva doesn't have disposable stuff. Of course, we have to send things disposable. You send them all the receipts. Money came. And the money went. Fine. I was very happy. I lost 50, I got 145. Whatever. But my brother-in-law, you have nothing to worry about. I'm not angry at you anymore. You didn't do anything wrong. Everyone's happy. Fast forward another 2 months. An email comes out. I understand that a lot of schools couldn't apply for the second program because they all got this PPP, all the schools. That there is a surplus in money. So, because of the issue, 20% of the schools that got approved for the first program can apply for the second program. Now, everyone can apply if you got the first program. 20% are going to be approved for the surplus. So I said, what's the chances of me being approved? 20%. What's the application process? 10 clicks of a button. You got approved, you need the money. How much is going to be the surplus in my head? What do you think the surplus was? The first was 145. I want you to hear this is not. What should be the second one? What? I figured 25 surplus. So I applied, without even thinking about it. You have that response a few weeks later, you're approved from the 20%. Okay. A few weeks, we'll get your amount in a few weeks. I remember it was Friday afternoon. And I get an email that your amounts came in. Open up the amounts. $630,000. Surplus. I said, this has to be a mistake. The first one's 145. It was surplus of $630,000. So I emailed back, like I said, no, I think there's a mistake in your system. I can't like this. Can't be real. You're not giving me $630,000.
Sure, but first you get 145 instead of 25. Now you're getting 600.
How expensive?
So you did that? You actually asked them?
Yeah. I just want to make sure that
Well, I guess you're lucky you didn't get the PPP.
very much so. So I said, no, it's official. There was so much extra money because all the moistness couldn't get it. Fine. But this time it's with restrictions. No reimbursements, 1,000,001 rules that we couldn't like. Basic, I don't know, this. They gave a list of things that you can't use it for this, you can't use it for that. Anything I wanted to use it for was a new thing. So I asked them. I said, "What about using it to get really about social distancing? I need more space for kids to sleep. So why should social distancing only apply when you're eating? Why can social distancing apply when you're sleeping? COVID only transfers when you're eating and not when you're sleeping? No, you can't use it for sleeping." So I really didn't know. So I had this money that was reserved in some account. I couldn't access it. You'd have to approve what you needed for it. And this program, they wouldn't give you. You would have to give it to basically, it was there. I said, you know what? It's like, I was thrilled to get the email. But, the agency can send you $630,000. But can't actually do anything because there's nothing I can do with it. But it was in an account for me if one day I can figure out by January 2024 what I can use it. I never actually thought about it. It was still like the koyach. They were still figuring out. So this guy tells me, he says, I need $625,000. He says, you have $630,000. The other says, I'll be $10. You don't need an S because you have the money. I said, no, but they said no to dormitories. That looks at me. He says, that was before you got an answer from the Rebbe. Now that you got an answer from the Rebbe, I have to ask again. Next day, I emailed
It's a good vibe you got over there.
What?
Good vibe.
Yeah. I emailed the superintendent, the guy, the boss of this guy, the boss. I say, I didn't tell you to ask for that. So I want to clarify that it doesn't make sense to me that it could be used only for this and not for sleeping. I would like authorization to use the money for additional sleeping places. I sent it back. You're authorized, no problem. Well, why not? I said, why not? I sent a letter to the supervisor, we want 2 buildings. Without raising a cent. We own 2 buildings, we closed 30 days. Exactly the amount of money that we needed, the Rebbe had given us before. They said no until the Rebbe's letter.
Just push the exact number, that was it?
$5,000
Under.
No fundraising campaign, no phone calls, nothing. They're like, I sweated for months over 1, 2.
You said $200,000.
It just depends how serious we take it up. If we believe that we have a Rebbe today, and the Rebbe will be foiled through us, with us today. The Rebbe has a lot of brachas for each and every one of us. Pashut brachas, a lot more than we can think. We have to allow ourselves, and I'll tell you, I was like, when I told this bad member, I'm not crazy. He said, I understand. That was before you got an answer from the Rebbe. It was so good shittas by this young man. On my bad. The note was before you got an answer from the Rebbe. I'm like, no, I don't think they're aware of that. No, it's okay. I couldn't say I'm not going to try because the guy says like that. I'm telling you, it's overnight. A no to a yes. The seller has no idea. The seller still thinks I made a contract and I just kept my word to the contract. What does he know? What's nice? Is money that it all started from a no? You watch the whole story doesn't make any sense. That's the Rebbe's prepared. The Rebbe knows it's going to do. The shaila is only 2 things. If I wouldn't have written to the Rebbe, I would never have gotten into contract. There's no way I'll be telling. I would have even thought that I have the chutzpah to go into contract, and I would lose these properties. Who knows for how long? And if not for the emunah, at least of this bad member, and the answer from the Rebbe, The money probably could have still been sitting in the account, doing anything until January 21st, figuring out what to play around with that. It was so upset. After they caught, want to hear how terrible I feel? To be honest with everybody here. After they gave the allowance, there's still extra money. There was an extra credit question. What would you do if you spent your allowance? Do you see yourself needing any more money? What would you do with it? That was like it was Erev Shabbos. I had to answer. I didn't even fill that in. I had to accept the funds, but it was by me so mufrach that I didn't even spend 600. Like, what am I going to do with this? And I lost it. I couldn't. If I would have put it, I need another 200,000. I would have got it.
That was it's a lack of money.
Yeah, thousands of dollars went back to the state, and who knows where it went. They literally asked, "You need extra money?" Like, it was so mufrach because I had all these restrictions. I didn't even reply yes. Like, no, actually, I can't, because I honestly couldn't figure out what am I going to do with this month. Like, that's how bad it was in my head. It was so mufrach. I can't beat myself up because you don't know, but it was just like, I'm just telling you, after they caught, it was like so out of my head. I could have literally just applied, yeah, I need another 200,000. For them, it would be okay. Because they don't know what to do with this money. The more they spend, the better it is for them. They don't know what to do with this.
We have a little treasure for $500 or down and it's been wasted on.
What's your name?
Mark.
Last name? And you versteht dat ook weer, hè? Versteht de meeste het wel? How come? Understand the dollar amount or the debit behind it? What impresses you in the story? First of all, who you named that?
Actually, 2 people. I'm named after a person from the Gershon side, Mordecai Shafna, and named after my great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather. I think it's my great-grandfather. We have a dog from Hashi.
You like living here?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
I hear it. Heilig Chassidim. Chaim. Als we verbinden zich met een Rebbe, then Chassidus is oil. Then everything works. Brachis, then Shachis. The Rebbe Pashit's Pada B'Shalei Nafshi. That's the Nekuda. The Rebbe opens us up, B'Shalei, like just let him, just allow the Rebbe to be boiled, just like the famous Maisa that the Friedrich Rebbe, the Rebbe Shashab said the Friedrich Rebbe on the Shlichus, they sent the Rashpatz with him, and the Rebbe Shpatz asked, "What's my tafkid?" He said, "Nishkal Yamah." Don't allow the Friedrich Rebbe. Don't ruin it. That's your job. Nishkal Yamah. Forget about what you're going to do. Your job is Nishkal Yamah. Our job is only to let the Rebbe Nishkal Yamah. That's the number one job. Let the Rebbe be poiled. We are so self-restricted. It's crazy. We are convinced so much of what we can do. By the Rebbe, it's like endless. What we could do is like very good quote we saw recently. The guy said that he was doing business with Chassidus Shiyid. He asked the Chassidus Shiyid, "You get your money under the tish, under the table?" The guy says, "No." He says, "Why not?" He says, "If you're playing with money under the tish, the limit you have is the tish. If you're playing above the tish, the shamayim is your limit. You have a whole, the limit's up there. If you're playing under the tish, the tish is your limit now. This is what's the other niche? But there's people that figure out how to go down, very deep. The tish is very high, but the nekuda is that's not the nekuda. The Nakuda is, most of us as Chassidim, we can't. We're so limiting. We live in a belt under the tish, and we're like the violet, the sky. You just get on top of the table, and the sky is the limit. It's like, oh, again, on Rebbe's plates, it's like, just take off. I'm telling you, I felt so overworked and stressed out and so accomplished in one building, and then 1 to 3, like this, out without the stress. Chic. It's like it breezed right through. Like what? Because you know what? When you go with your own kindness, it's like the Rebbe. Allow the Rebbe to be toil. Allow the Rebbe to just do what he does.
It all started with putting the address in the GPS.
How it's come?
All the address in the GPS.
I love you.
Oh, you don't know what the GPS is. Thank you.
I love you.
I'm wrong.
Is that L'chaim go Buffalo?
I tried telling the middle of this the whole time. Look ahead, you know.
This is why I've said this Farbrengen. Fact is, the income this city could have many more brothers. They're just like, wake up. Stop being silly over here. This is a real Chelmstadt. To be honest, I'm sorry about leaving in a few hours. The question is, sitz zwischen Chachmei Chelm.
Under the dish.
No, smart people, but so silly.
And under
Silly what could be. I mean, you know what? We're all guilty of it. We think at home it's so pretty. It's far from pretty, Cincinnati. But it's gringy, it's not in Yemen. That's just the way it is. Because we look at ourselves and bias things.
Enjoy.
Talk about myself?
No, about
It's very easy.
enjoy it.
Rabbi goes master. Maybe a day am I. Yes. The Nakuda is, we're all smart enough, just like so. Let me tell you a nice in Cincinnati. It's a nice.
Thank you for joining me.
This is a nicer from last Haka. Last Haka, I am above. Just take it out for 7 years. A little math we can do. Cincinnati is a messy city. Ohio is a very messy state. I'm talking about Maker Shlichus wise. Ohio, basically, one of the first Hasidim in Ohio was Rabbi Casey. He was in Cleveland. He wasn't sent officially as a shliach, like many Hasidim, like I say, Detroit. They got their visas, they joined the game that they have to move to certain cities. They thought they would go there for a little bit and then they would come back. But you know, by the once you're already there, Ashkacha Pratis, you're supposed to be there. So my Zayda got stuck in Detroit for 30 years, and they were in Cleveland. I was like, you know, that's how these Chassidim ended up in the Shtetlach. By me, when my Zayda came, for example, then my Zayda came in the Dalit. And Beryl Shem came in the test. He would be in Pasha than the Farbrengen the young, which was very different the way he knows how to happen. And it came to a point that my Baba came to Yichidus crying to the Rebbe that she can't live this way. The Rebbe told her very sharp there. The Rebbe told her this, Mrs. Hansen. She was there first. It says, Ich will as I will garden sein. If you want, if you tell me, I'm taking you back. I want him to be there. But if you decide that he should stay, I don't want to hear complaints again. Tell me now, yes or no? I want him there, but you don't want him? Okay, all right. What? Yeah. Yes or no? So the Rebbe says he wants him there. He said no. Yes, and he was right. The furniture, he couldn't complain. No, that was the story of their life for like 35 years. But the cases were in Cleveland, not like shluchim, they were just there. When their oldest daughter got married, it was Rabbi Alevsky. They wanted to bring Rabbi Alevsky to Ohio. The Rebbe told Rabbi Alevsky that he has to work for Tzach New York. So he told Tzach to open up a branch in Cleveland. So Ohio is a state that's officially under Tzach. All states under Tzach. I mean, now it's all one thing anyways, but officially, the Rabbi Collinson's contract is with Tzach. You know, drawn it up. Says, come on, Ohio's under Tzach. Yeah. So Ohio's under Tzach. Don't understand it. But then, you know, this thing happened. Ohio Council was sent to Southern Ohio, which is near Kentucky. So he claimed Indiana and Kentucky and Southern Ohio. That all schlepped from Detroit to Toledo, which is near Michigan. Ohio got swallowed up by like 5 different shluchim, and Columbus, there was a whole mix up there. The kids is like 19 head shluchim in 4 cities in Ohio. So there's not like central powers. It's the one you can live. Everyone has their favorite. Shalom Bear is a very, very, very special yid. Rabbi Greenberg said he was a chalissa at 14 points. But the point is, he did something which today shluchim wouldn't do. You know, I think he was, at a certain point, he was riding high with a few dollars, and he had a few kids that got married at the same time. He brought down a bunch of kids at the same time. So when you have money to support all your kids, doesn't matter what they do. If you have money, you don't have to do anything to support this one. Sorry, that's what I would do. But otherwise, if you don't have specific tafkidim for each person, it gets very messy very quickly. If there's money, good. At the moment there's no money, and there's no specific tafkidim, I'm going to stay on the cup, and it got very messy very, very quickly. But Noisov, L'chol it's like right after Gimel Tammuz, when Merkez decided that Rabbi Collinson is not a shliach, so they took him off the list, and all his kids, and they appointed, they appointed Rabbi Sharston was like myself, he was in Cincinnati before Rabbi Collinson. He was sent to Torah. They appointed him head shliach. When he passed away, they appointed his son on Crown Street, Mendy Sharston, to be the head shliach of Cincinnati. I always say that my parents are neighbors. Why am I in Cincinnati? Because my parents are neighbors with my head shliach. They happen to live on Crown Street between Kingston and Albany. But it's a mess. It's a mess mitzvah, but it's a real mess.
Wow.
It was Gevarna Matzev, and it shouldn't happen to anybody. Then Rabbi Kalmas got to fight with his son, Mangel. It was one big, it was so bad. It was like really bad. When I came down there oblivious to the whole thing, it shows the city, it all looks nice.